What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. I am joined by SW again today for kind of some newer content. I don't think we've done this before with any content this long, but we're going to be analyzing Nick and Hunter Biden's interview today. It's about an hour and 45, so we may only do like a part one and part two, or maybe only do a part one today and just do something tomorrow for a part two. But we'll see how it goes. SW, have you watched the interview
Well,
yet or no?
I haven't watched the full interview, but I remember
Me
I
neither.
sent you that clip because
Hmm.
I said he's doing his dad's gimmick, which is
I
a
loved
big
that
theme.
because it's not even like it wasn't even just like his dad's beliefs. Like even the man, like it really
Well, you don't
sounded like
ever
Joe
even see
Biden.
Don Jr. do that.
I know, dude, that was pretty crazy. Like, he truly sounded like his dad. Like, and it didn't even sound like he was trying to like mimic him. Like, it sounded pretty natural. That's the thing. Um, but yeah, no, I haven't seen the interview yet. I saw that clip that you sent me, so I've only watched about 5 minutes of this. So I'm excited to watch it. Yeah, from everything I've heard, it's a good, surprisingly cordial interview. Um,
Do you think he's trying to run for something?
oh, that's what I wanted to say before this starts. I think that this pretty much like I don't even know that I would say exposes, but it puts out in public view Hunter Biden's political aspirations, in my opinion, because Gavin Newsom was doing the same thing with Charlie Kirk before Charlie was
Yeah.
killed. You have who was it? Tucker was talking to Stephen A. Smith. So you have a lot of this going on where you have like these
Well, what do you
liberals.
think he would be running for?
I don't know. I think that he's just kind of I'm not like super tapped in like Nick or something, but like
Or is it? It's maybe it's one of those things that like it's to be seen. He's just putting himself out there, and then he's waiting for the right opportunity of
and
what
just
falls on his lap.
yeah, and just kind of mending his public image a little bit and trying to like I think he doesn't want to be seen anymore as just like the crackhead fail son. He wants to kind
See,
of
I
have
kind
like a
of
redemption
disagree with
arc.
that though. I think that's part of his gimmick that he's like, see, look at like I'm a cool kid, but but I can also be no, or what's the word I'm looking for? Not normal, but I can also be polished, and
Yeah,
maybe you
yeah.
should vote for me because I have a checkered past.
Yeah, I just mean that I think he's leaning into his redemption arc kind of thing where he doesn't want the story to just end with him with the last story you heard about Hunter Biden being they found cocaine in the Oval Office or something like they did a few years ago. Like I
Yeah.
think he wants there to be like more to his story and to be fair to Hunter Biden, they were kind of trying to corner him in the media and be like, "Why did you give this Nazi a platform?" And Hunter Biden said that he would do it again. He has no regrets over the conversation. So I don't know how much of that is performative and how much of that is genuine. But he did talk to Nick, and he is probably a bigger name than Nick in the country. Like if you ask normies, they're more likely to know who Hunter Biden is than
It's so
Nick.
weird
So
how many more people know who Nick is now versus 4 years
I
ago
know, dude.
or
I still
6 years ago.
Dude, I still have those moments sometimes where I'm like scrolling Instagram reels and that like there will
Well,
be
do
a
you
Nick
remember the
clip.
one I sent you where it was who like the actor who plays Hank on Breaking Bad, and like somebody asked him something. He went on like a rant. He goes, "Oh, I know who he is. He's a
Yeah, yeah,
terrible person. He's
yeah.
buzzword, 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 buzzword."
It's almost like the more conservative and the more like traditionally conservative the role that somebody played in the show is, the more likely they are to just be a totally horrible shit lib in real life. You know what I mean?
No, man, that's true.
The more conservative they play, the more just hick lib they are like because I think they don't want to be associated with those roles like as their personality.
Or I think they love it. They're like, yeah, I get to. They get to air out like almost like a fantasy.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. They also get to kind of play like cartoonish versions of conservatives and stuff. Let me see.
Inclusion has been our great.
Okay, cool. And could you hear that when I played that for a second?
Yeah.
Okay,
Who's
cool.
the interviewer though? Because I've seen him
Okay,
before.
I don't know much about him.
You
It's
said you want to ask me.
it's Andrew Callahan. I don't know much about him. Um, Good on him for hosting this interview. I have a lot of respect for that, but I don't know much about him actually. Um, Ads, of course. Yeah, I don't know much about Andrew Callahan. Um, where have you seen him before? Have you seen him on
I've
stuff?
just seen his face or like you on YouTube doing like street interviews because he'll wear like a real shitty suit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't seen that. There we go. Okay. 1.4. All right. So yeah, let's just start from the beginning. Like I said, if you I'm gonna pause if there's stuff that's relevant to go over, but yeah, just let me know if you want me to pause it at all and I'll knock it out.
Why are you a Nazi?
Inclusion has been our greatest strength. Diversity has been our greatest strength.
White people do feel like we are being boxed out.
A 26-year-old white kid doesn't feel like he has access because he's been canceled, and the problem is black
I
people.
didn't say the problem's black people.
Well, you just did, Nick. You just
I said the
said.
problem is crime, and we know who's doing the crime in Chicago.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
About the Holocaust things?
Oh, about that. We get to say whatever we want on the internet. We get to deny the Holocaust. As far as Jews are concerned in general, I think that everybody in the country should be treated with dignity and respect and have to sit there with, let's be honest,
Sloan ever
develop ASI. That could
completely change it.
increasingly with
Good
Uber,
for
Airbnb.
this.
I want to
The kind of first question that I had whenever
Okay.
of a shithead Donald Trump is. We can get there. We can get there. Okay.
the kind
right.
of first question that I had whenever I caught wind that you wanted to do an interview like this is, why now? What made you want to sit down for this kind of interview?
Well, I think it's an interesting conversation to have all of us here. And, I think it's a moment in our country when there's a lot of realignment. I think that people recognize, especially in the past couple of years, I'm like a non-conventional critic, maybe, of what's happening. And so I think it'll be an interesting, productive conversation. I think it'll be different.
But I mean, specifically, because we kind of share a publicist, I heard that you wanted to kind of. Okay. we have a publicist that you hit up, and you said that you wanted to talk to someone who would give you kind of a fair shot to like clear up some things and maybe some misconceptions about you and the things you believe.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think that, I'm somebody who I think like you, actually, maybe we have this in common, is kind of pigeonholed in a certain way for things that we've done in the past or things that we've said.
I'm a crackhead.
I do have a lot of respect for Nick. As far as I can tell, because it would have gone viral if this were the case. I don't think he ever like goes. I don't think it ever gets so contentious that he like goes for the jugular and is like, "Don't lecture me, crackhead." You know
That's
what I
how
mean?
I
Like,
yeah, and that's how I felt in the Dean Withers debate, where I was like, there's so many times I was like, he could really get nasty right here.
yeah,
But I also think it's one of those where if he gets nasty, people will get nasty back, and then it's
right,
just he knows there's nothing to be gained from mudslinging, in my
right.
opinion.
No, I agree, and I also think there's something kind of admirable. And look, I'm not a Democrat, just for the record, obviously, but I do think there's something kind of admirable about Hunter Biden like jumping on this interview or becoming a more public figure, knowing what his backstory is, knowing the kind of like humiliation he could be setting himself up for in any given interaction. I do respect that, honestly, because a lot of people would not do this at all, you know?
I think he's smart. He knows he knows how the culture leans,
Hmm.
and he knows that like the only people who are going to froth at the mouth and like get angry about it are like the stereotypical Fox boomer.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And
Like
then you just look like an
exactly,
idiot.
exactly. I haven't had this conversation yet, but I can imagine if I told like if my family were like, "Did you see that Nick Hunter interview? He really is a Democrat." I could imagine that playing out with the Fox News crowd, 100%.
Or
Um,
them just being like, why are we taking this junkie seriously?
right, right. And it's like, well, he's the son of a former president. I think it's important to talk to him. And also just kind of from the start, the body language here, like when I looked at Nick's interview with Candace, which turned into more of a debate, Candace was very confrontational with her body language. Hunter's leaning back. We already have like a genuine smile from him. That's not a fake
Well,
smile.
he's doing the proper alpha
Yeah, honestly,
of what he's trying to do.
I think it fits what he's trying to do. And Nick always holds frame well, and like even when he gets a little flustered, he holds frame. I mean, in terms of just body language, he doesn't really shift his body that much in general. And Hunter looks just like eager to have a convo. Real smile. The you can kind of see the skin bending. It's not a fake thing. So it looks genuine from the start. It doesn't look like an attack or anything. So Let's
I'm
go.
racist, right?
I got pigeonholed there. Mine is true. Yeah.
Yeah, my mind's a little true. Maybe a little, no. But yeah, so I think it'd be good to clear up some of the misrepresentations and put out something accurate.
So what do you think is the most misrepresented thing about you?
Well, I think really the whole image everybody has about me. You know, when you mentioned me, I think on a recent show, you said you want to ask me, why are you a Nazi?
Yeah.
And that's how everybody knows me. Everybody thinks of me as a white supremacist Nazi, and I don't think that's really true at all. I think that we definitely have different values. I mean, you're more from the left, I'm more from the right, but I don't think I'm a hater. I'm not a hateful person.
It is Heil Hitler Friday. Heil Hitler. All my niggas Nazis.
Morgan Hitler was very fucking cool.
Yes, I do.
One of the
And I'm tired of pretending he's not.
So what's the thing about, I guess, traditional Nazis?
Yeah, I mean, we just have like the classic library, the grab bag of quotes and stuff. A lot of those are jokes. It's not even worth trying to like.
And
debunk.
that's why it's like and that's where it plays. That plays to both like the Fox boomers and the MSNBC boomers, and also the totally I'm not a Democrat leftists.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Those types are. I mean, it plays to like the whole spectrum.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of glad to see that we're moving past that. I think the grab bag of Nick's greatest hits that they just did there, those really don't land like they used to. People are kind of desensitized to that, and I mean that's their own making. Not saying
And it is funny because whenever I see people who get really triggered over something he says, I'm always just like, "You're such a mark," which is a wrestling. So like, mark is a wrestling term for like the fans who think it's real.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's
So
that's right.
so it's
Okay.
used as a derogatory term in wrestling circles, where it's like, and that's how I feel about people who get super triggered by like by those clips.
Exactly. Because also, if you actually listen to his show, actually watch his show, not every day, but just give it a listen. People have this impression that it's like 2 hours of him just screaming the N word and like throwing
Well,
up
they think
Romans
it's
for 2 hours.
InfoWars.
Yeah, exactly. They think it's InfoWars, but like more racist or something, where he's just like screaming the N word.
What
It's like,
what was that called? What was? Oh no, was it Red Ice or something like
oh
that?
yeah, Red Ice TV.
Like
Yeah,
they think it's
yeah,
like that.
exactly. And it's like you said, they're the perfect marks, and you can tell they don't actually engage with the content. They're just going off of clips. So I'm glad to see that we're moving past that a little bit.
That you think you disagree with the most?
Well, it's a non-Christian ideology. So, I mean, look, I believe that race is real, as the Nazis did, but I don't think it utterly defines a person. As a Christian, I think we're all created beings. I do believe there's such a thing as a universal human community. And so I think it's a cruel ideology. I've said this on my show, by the way, but I mean, that would maybe be the fundamental.
Like we
Did you always
just
feel that
said.
way?
Always, yeah, absolutely.
So even whenever you were younger and stuff?
I did, but you know, you got to recognize times have changed. 10 years ago, we had a totally different political world. The regulation and policing of speech, you know, what you would call wokeness, I think was at an all-time high when I got started as a very young man.
What would you would call wokeness?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I think, I mean, would you not say there were some excesses maybe in those days?
Yeah, in those days, I wasn't doing too well, so I wasn't paying much attention. Anyway, I would love to hear.
A little self-deprecating joke there. Like
Well, he smirked when he said it too.
yeah, like he's hyper aware of like how he's being viewed. I can appreciate that. Like not being
I think that was more just like I was partying.
yeah,
like a flex.
yeah, like honestly that's cooler than being like I was like just like the GOP nerds, you know, like Mike Johnson with his glasses. I say that as somebody with glasses, but like I don't know, you're just not going to get me to hate this guy too much. Like, yeah, he's crooked. So are like honestly Trump's kids too. Like now, granted, they don't have the you know, Hunter Biden's valleys were a little bit deeper than Don Jr.'s. I'll give you that. But like the general principle, it's like I'm not going to hate this guy too much. I can appreciate what he's doing.
Here, and I'm not asking you to like retract everything that you've ever said and all, you know, or anything. But
And also, he does sound just like his dad. Oh my gosh, dude, that's crazy.
said that I would love to talk to you because number one, I told you this, is that I think you're really smart, and I think that with that comes in a real responsibility, and you have an audience. And I have a friend whose son is my daughter's age, you know, maybe 28, you know, your age, and he's really smart, and he is a big fan of yours. And so by virtue of the relationship, I got to learn what it is that why he is a fan of yours. And none of it has to do with, I would hope you agree, like really egregious things that you've said in the past about the Holocaust or about, you know.
Did the Jews ever talk about the 100 million whites that died in World War II? Or do they just bitch and moan about the so-called 6 million Jews that died?
And so it's just nice to poke holes in it
I mean,
and say
that's
it's
fair.
not 6 million.
6 million? I don't think so.
And I don't even know, I think I've heard you since kind of
The ominous music with each of the clips, you know. like the horror
He's really
movie
trying to
music.
do a hit piece on him.
I know. Well, some people said that in Nick's super chats that they didn't like the format of this because it does feel like a hit piece. I think Nick is being gracious and not leaning into that, but it does feel that way a little bit. Like
Well,
this
it's
is
the
what
editing
Candace did.
after the fact.
Exactly. This is what Candace's production team did. They threw in all this stuff afterwards. So I don't love that. It is kind of poisoning the well a little bit, but okay.
In a lot of that.
You can see that 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust.
Possibly more. Possibly, we're discovering all the time. So it could maybe even be more than that.
But what he agrees with is kind of the anger about the situation that particularly your generation finds yourself in. I know that to be real.
Okay.
And I think that there, maybe my reasons for recognizing that anger is being legitimate and my targets are different than yours. I just wanted to hear from you. When you say you were canceled by the right in 2016.
Yes.
I almost felt like in preparing to meet you now, is that your reaction to that was to just dig deeper and deeper into kind of the outsider, kind of radical, say anything for the purpose of generating, the attention to build an audience. Is that?
That is okay. So that's kind of my first big beef is I don't know if you've noticed this, but they do this anytime they talk either about Nick or to Nick. They do this thing where they can't admit that anything he says has any legitimacy. So the first thing they do two things. The first one is what Hunter Biden just did there. He says that he's only popular because young men are angry. So they're saying, "Oh, we need to listen to the young men. Just give them an outlet. They're angry. Let them yap. We should have listened to them." And two, they go after you were canceled at a young age and that alienated you and you were angry, so you doubled down and said ridiculous things to build an audience. It's a way of just like not actually listening to what Nick is saying and just being like, you're angry, your followers are angry, and maybe we should have listened to the crying baby a
Well,
little
I'm
bit more.
surprised he's not doing the thing where he's like, I guess he is going to do it where he goes, where they're like, oh, you're angry, but it's all misrepresented and you actually have no reason to be type thing.
Or I my feeling what they're starting to do more on the left is they're starting to say your anger is legitimate, but you're angry at Jews and blacks when you need to be angry at the billionaires
Oh, yeah.
and Wall Street. They're basically going to try to make their targets his targets also. And I mean, I don't Nick doesn't fall for that, but that's what they do. They try to make you into like a Bernie Sanders leftist,
Well,
basically.
they're trying to switch the clocks back, but they
Hmm.
can't do that. And
Right,
this is why I
right.
think you and I have like talked about this before, and why I don't think that the Democrats can ever really take back the male vote
Uh-huh.
because they've dug the hole too deep.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
and this whole and I mean, and that's why everything that comes out ends up being so dishonest. And even what Hunter's trying to do in this interview, it almost feels like the Steve Buscemi 30 Rock meme. How do you do, fellow young white guys?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let me tell you how it is.
Exactly. And it's not, like you said, it's not going to work. I mean, even just like in this interview, I mean, Nick has been doing this for 10 years now, and Hunter Biden came around last week essentially and started saying, maybe we should listen to these people. It's like, it, people aren't exactly going to buy that. You're talking to the far right. You started like a week ago. It doesn't seem legitimate. It doesn't seem genuine. But yeah, so that's where we're going to go with this already. I mean, that's the first place Candace went in her interview with him that went off the rails. She, about 20 minutes into it, she goes, "So basically, the Jews hated you, so your response was to hate them back." Do I have that right? It's Hunter's
Oh,
just
geez.
doing. I know it was so unfair, but Hunter's kind of doing it just in a little bit more fair way and not as on the nose because he's probably smarter than Candace.
True. And it's not an accusation. I really mean it. I want this to be a conversation as much as possible.
I mean, there's certainly some truth to that, but I think that might be overstating it a little bit because I really got canceled by the right and the left.
Yeah.
And back in those days in 2017, you had these far left journalists at Huffington Post, Right Wing Watch, ADL, SPLC, and I really believe they were on a mission to find extremist rhetoric, the white nationalist, neo-Nazi boogeyman, all that kind of stuff. And they would look at someone like myself, 18, and if I was being serious or joking, things taken out of context, they would clip it, post it, and they wanted me to be the villain. And I think they wanted a lot of people to be the villain. I think the left, in a way, kind of created this climate where I think they pushed a lot of people farther to the right.
No, by the way,
canceling them.
that very well may be true, but you gave him a lot of ammunition.
That's true.
You know, I mean, I hope that some of those things that you've said in the past are not things that you believed in and that are you meant just to engender like a really radical kind of response. I mean, is that true or not?
Well, you know, again, I think that back in those days, you could not say anything. In 2017, 2018, cancel culture was so in overdrive. Any joke, any edgelording, anything like that, they would, first of all, there's no sense of humor.
I'm so old. I don't even. What's
Okay, well, to break it down for you, so the dawn of wokeness as it's known today, I think was in like the post-Trump era. After Trump.
But yeah, I mean, you see, he's doing the thing like, well, you didn't really mean those things you said about Jewish influence, right? Like you were just saying that. It's like, I mean, sure, the jokes, okay, but the real meat of what Nick is talking about hasn't fundamentally changed too much, and during his career. I mean, his approach, sure, people get older and change how they do their approach, but like the actual substance of what he believes and what he promotes hasn't ever really changed. So this idea that it was all just like a big joke, that's what they always try to do, you know.
Won the election in 2016, there was a big movement to deplatform and kind of push away those who, I guess, the left feel like had galvanized them into the presidency. So there was this big idea that if you push people off mainstream social media platforms, they would go away. Now we know through Trump's reelection, that's not even true. But at the time, that was the mantra. Problematic viewpoints needed to be silenced, tucked away somewhere, and they would just sort of die in isolation. So I think that was the climate where you first got started, 2017. That time period was like crucial for getting people off mainstream platforms. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I would say that you got to get into the psychology of those days. It felt like anybody that wasn't on board with the most progressive agenda had no options. There was just no alternative. It was going to be progressive, liberal, feminist, BLM, all that kind of stuff. And if you were to the right of John McCain, you're no platformed, censored, banned from all the platforms, you're fired from your job, you're ostracized socially. And I think what happened really in 2021 when Trump got banned from the platforms is it felt like 70 million people got canceled. 70 million people that voted for Trump, or 60, 70 million people, we were all felt like, oh, so if Trump is out of politics and we're all banned from the platforms, then how is there any redress for our grievances? Do we just have to shut up and get with the program and we're all going to be progressive? And I think that drove people to a far more radical place where people said, well, what really is a solution? We can't talk, we can't express ourselves, we can't participate in the process or run for office. And I was one of the people saying that's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to drive people to extremism. If you don't talk, if people don't feel like they have a seat at the table in enfranchisement, I think then they start exploring options outside the system.
Yeah, dude, I don't know about you, but that was kind of like one of my earliest, like even before I was like online or on Twitter or anything, one of the first like red pills I had was during, I think it was Mitt Romney when Romney was running against Obama in 2012. I remember that all the shit libs were calling him like a Nazi, basically.
Well, they were doing that all the way back. I remember them doing that to Bush back
exactly,
in 2004.
exactly. They were calling, if I remember correctly, they were calling Romney a Nazi because he wanted to like cut down on welfare, like he wanted there to be work requirements for welfare. And they through a series of connections made that into him being a Nazi. And what set me off was the fact that, like you just said, I remember them saying that about McCain and them saying that about Bush. But then at that time, when they were trying to end Romney's career, they were saying that Bush was a reasonable Republican and Romney was the extremist. And then that from a young age.
Then it switched to with Trump too.
Exactly. Yeah. So then from that age, I was like, and this isn't groundbreaking now, but when I was younger and you're learning the ropes and everything, that was a big wake up call for me because I was like, they're really just going to call anybody on the right a Nazi when it's convenient for them. And then after they've ruined that person's life and attached Nazi labels to them, the system will try to then consume them again and say, like they're doing with George W. Bush right now, or even McCain. They said, oh, well, that was the last era of reasonable Republicans. It's like, those are the Republicans that you called a Nazi in my youth. That's what I remember,
Yep.
It's insane. It's insane, man.
Side of the political process, of the democratic process. So I think it's self-inflicted in many ways.
So you
imagine being able to build an app with your name on it just by thinking about it.
platforms like Parler, Gab, Rumble, etc., the lack of discourse and like the political singularity of those platforms created more extremism.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because look, you take Trump off of Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and I predicted this in 21. I said, watch, you're going to see alternative social media rise because some venture capitalist is going to see there's a huge market of 70 million people that are going to follow Trump because Trump is no platform. And that's exactly what happened. Rumble blew up, Elon bought Twitter. And what happened when you had total free speech on these platforms? Well, Twitter now resembles 4chan. And now, there's no gatekeepers. And I think it did push people in a radical direction. And honestly, people are even blowing past me. Now there's like mainstream normie types that are even blowing past me in terms of how radical they are. People start saying things like, there's no political solution. There's going to be a civil war. We need a revolution.
I mean, what he's describing there is what we talk actually what you and I talk about a lot, but what we talked to JF about, the rise of the conspiratardism. I mean, that like what he's saying there about people blowing past him, I would put that in the realm of like the Candace Owens fans who think that, Charlie saw her, like Charlie talked to her in a dream, all that kind of stuff. Like, I feel like that's partially,
Well, it's funny because that's what basically feel like was like Parlor and was like was like Parlor's base,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that was who was on Parlor.
exactly. Yeah.
Did he say Gab or
Yeah,
did
he
he
said,
just say Par? Okay,
he
he
said
did say
Gab
Gab.
also. It was just muted when they said that. But yeah, Gab also. Same exact thing, man. So yeah, I mean, like I remember when Nick used to be like I remember when like the mainstream media's how they would label him when they had to talk about him. I remember it wasn't even like white nationalist racist Nick Fuentes. They would call him a conspiracy theorist. Like that's how far back I remember of like that used to be their big knock against him. I don't even think people's critique of Nick now is that he's not conspiratorial enough. So it is interesting that you have like these Ian Carrolls, Owen Benjamin types that are just like in that world now that are like in some ways like further
Yeah.
not further right than Nick, but like more out there than Nick. It's interesting.
And I think that's because the message from the left was you're crushed. You have no options. You can't win. There's no alternative. Trump is going to be indicted and charged and can't run. You can't be on Twitter. You can't have a job. And so people started to say, okay, well, we still exist. We're still here. We still have these concerns. What do we do now? And then people start to say, well, we need a revolution. And I'm one of the only people saying, no, we should still engage in the process and talk with each other. And it's not all one-sided. I think there's problems on the left and the right, but I certainly think it takes two to tango.
Okay, so there, we agree. I think that there are problems on the left and the right, and I don't disagree with some of the things that you just said. I guess I just came to a different conclusion that there are some things that people should be deplatformed for. Not that they can't say it when they want to say it, but I think that it's a right of anybody.
Okay, top three things. What do you think?
There's a difference between being able to say that you're proud of your white heritage and also being just flat out racist. I think that there's a difference between saying you're proud of your.
What does that even mean? Like
Yeah, I was
there's a
like, why
different
don't you elaborate on that?
exactly
Because
like
and we've seen that that's not true at all.
exactly that's not true at all. People get censored and fired all the time for
For
not being
even for way less.
and like what I love these terms that they use that they just kind of like I like what Joe Biden or Hunter Biden's doing here, but like has he ever thought about like what he just said here? He says,
Where they want
It's
to say it.
religious
I think it's a
dogma. I
right of
said it
anybody.
yesterday.
yeah, yeah, it's religious.
That's
Yeah.
all it is. And no, it was like, what was that? What's her name? Miss Rachel?
Yeah, yeah.
Or how she was like with the dude with the kid who drowned drunk in the Gulf.
Oh yeah,
And she
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, I just can't help but think that if it was a white boy, they would be looking deeper into it. And it's just like
Exactly.
they
That's
live in this weird world where it's like there's no basis in what they say. It's religious dogma at this point.
yeah. Well, I mean like what Hunter said there, he said there's a difference between being proud of your ethnic heritage or being proud that you're white and flat out racism. Okay, how are you defining like what does flat out mean? What does that mean? Is it if somebody says I'm a racist and I love being white, that deserve
And
like
with the
what is
pride thing, like what really are you allowed to quote unquote take pride in?
right? Like are you okay? So you're okay with them saying like I love my Irish heritage, but if they say I love my European white heritage, that's too far. Like there's no definitions here. It's just like that it sounds a lot like the girls who get on TikTok and they're like just be a freaking good person. It's
It
like
is. It's all
it's
the
just
same
like
thing.
that. It's all just
Just
like
be a decent fucking
be a
person,
decent
man.
to a man. I've never met anybody who has like a strong moral compass who has said just be a good person because that phrase in itself kind of dictates that you don't have any moral laws other than just like if people are sad, that
And
is
like their
bad.
definition of a good person is
Yeah, it's
very,
like
very warped,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it changes depending on the situation.
yeah. So Hunter is going with the basic bitch liberalism of just like you're just like a freaking flat out racist. You're not like those other racists who are fine and they conceal it. You're a flat out racist. Okay.
Top three things. What do you think?
There's a difference between being able to say that you're proud of your white heritage and also being just flat out racist. I think that there's a difference between saying you're proud of your Christian heritage and the white culture from what you come from and Nazis, or that you adopt the Nazism as a legitimate ideology. I think that there's a difference between saying that you disagree with the United States policy as it relates to Israel and saying that the Holocaust didn't exist.
I was like, Mom, Dad, Hitler was awesome. Hitler was right. And the Holocaust didn't happen. And my parents were like, we cannot believe.
Those are my. Those
are like, that is clearly a case where that's like it's a bit on the super chat. Like, he's laughing, he's leaning back in his chair. Like, that's clearly a riff. You know what I mean? It's so dishonest there to act like he was like deadpan staring at the camera. Like, that's clearly a joke.
Be top three things in my mind. I know that you believe that some people took you out of context, and I do agree. Look, on both the right and the left, there are these gatekeepers, 100%. And look at me, the mainstream press just destroyed me for 7 years without any real kind of reflection about what they were doing. I do think that, some of those things are legitimate reasons to say, we don't want you on our, on our commercial platform. Would you agree with that? I mean, you just said, for instance, people calling for like an armed revolution, like people calling for actual violence. You're opposed to.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm against violence. Yeah. And I do think those are one of the legitimate things that should be taken from the platform. There's a lot of the stuff on social media I don't agree with. But again, what started to happen is there was this like editorial censorship where certain ideas were banned. And it was such a broad brush and also totally opaque and ad hoc. You'd be on YouTube, like I was, for example, they banned me for life and didn't even give me a reason. Not a specific quote, not a specific infraction. And so you don't know what the rules are. You don't know what the process is. They just take you down. And especially...
I don't even know that somebody Hunter's age can understand, like, because I still think to a lot of these older people, when they hear people complain, younger people complain about getting banned or getting censored, I think their initial reflexive thought is like, well, what do you need YouTube for? You can watch cat videos.
That's exactly it. They don't understand that it's his livelihood.
Yeah.
And it's people's life. It's like Red Bar went through the same thing. It's when you take away YouTube, because YouTube, and I know you do all the technical stuff for us, but I've heard that just like it's the easiest to run a show on.
Yes,
because it's
100%.
like it's just everything's so much easier. Like
everything's integrated. Everything, yeah, it's just a breeze to upload.
Red Bar's kind of mentioned it before that he has his own system, and I don't know. He's never said what it costs, but then other people, even people who hate him, have always said that they were impressed with his setup and how he runs his show. Like, there are like cameras, mics, like he has like the best quality things for the show, but he pays so much money on the back end for cloud storage, for streaming. Like,
I mean, I could imagine. I can't imagine what Nick is paying on the back end for website hosting, for super chat. I mean, Rumble is probably good, but you would obviously want to be on YouTube, and I don't think
that's the thing. It's so much easier to be on YouTube. It's like, and like you're right that these kind of Gen X boomers, they just can't fathom the importance of it and why it's and the monopoly behind it.
I don't even think that they fully are aware that that is the public square now. Like, for you and I to say YouTube is the public square is like trite at this point. Like, I wouldn't even say that
it's
unprompted.
Granted.
It's just granted. Like, we know that. I honestly think that like when people 40 and older, maybe even like 38 and older, maybe not 38, but really 40 to 45 and older, when they hear YouTube, they're like, well, why is it your right to watch cat videos? Like, I don't think that they understand what that is. They don't understand it's the livelihood. They don't understand that it's the public square. So I think this is just kind of in one ear and out the other for Hunter. He's like, well, okay, you got banned on YouTube. Go to Rumble. It's like, that's not the same thing. YouTube has a monopoly, not as much as they did, but still, yeah.
Now, when everything is digital, that's not just the social platforms, it's the other ones like Uber, Airbnb, whatever. It feels like you're being denied almost something like a civil right, because the social platforms are the modern public square. Increasingly with Uber, Airbnb, the banking apps, you can't live your life without the tech platforms. And it felt like if you just simply had the wrong opinions or you were the wrong kind of person, you were being deprived of like a basic civil right or being able to participate in society. So, and I think maybe that's an area of collaboration where we recognize maybe it is a civil right to use the digital platforms, but here are the rules. Here's what you can say, here's what you can't say, here's the process. Maybe there's a reconciliation mechanism, but I mean, the censorship was just just out of control. I don't think anyone disagrees there's a reasonable limit, though.
Yeah, no, I guess what I'm saying is that I don't see that as a result of left-wing or right-wing ideology. I view that kind of level of deplatforming. Look, I was debanked. I was debanked before I was ever even charged with anything. I lost every bank account. It took me, 9.
What? Yeah, I don't know about that. If he was debanked, it was probably for like a RICO drug investigation or
Yeah,
something.
or it's just like
Like,
he just probably didn't have enough money in his account and he spent it
exactly.
all on blow.
Yeah, dude, like, okay, I'm calling BS on that one. It was either they found out he used that account to like buy drugs or buy prostitutes or something. Like
There's something more to
it
it.
was not because they saw him on YouTube saying like I want to live near white people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got a little stolen valor from Hunter here already, but okay, Hunter, whatever you say, buddy, you were being so edgy online that they debanked you. Okay, man.
Months once they, the Trump administration, said that they were starting an investigation into me to be able to actually get a bank account again. And I don't want to tell you the bank because tomorrow they may debank me again. But my point is that those people are incredibly identifiable. I've been talking and going around and I say things like, I don't think we are nearly as divided as they're telling us we are. Because I do believe that there are an identifiable group of people that are responsible for an enormous amount of the discord and division because they make
This it sounds like he's dog whistling to the far right, but that's the thing with these liberals, like they are. Nick was talking about this, that like we have this desire to want to talk to the left, and like we see where they see some things we're saying and we see some similarities with what they're saying. But you talk to a liberal like this long enough and you realize that they're just naive, like what
Or
like
it's just like I said earlier, it's religious
at best,
dogma.
they're just naive. At worst, they're just lying to you to your face to try to get buy-in
And they're
from you.
lying to themselves too.
Yeah. Like when Hunter says right there, that liberals love this line, and I don't agree with it. I would like if it were true, but it's not. He said, I just don't think we're as divided as we think we are. It's like, no, we are though, dude.
I get so
Like we
mad when
are.
I hear hick libs and like these quote unquote no nonsense libs try and do this. We're all,
Matthew McConaughey.
yes,
Matthew McConaughey reading that damn script thing for the
well, and
DNC.
I know some people in real life who try this shtick and they're like, we're just so divided. It's like, okay, you're talking about the division stuff to the people, to the wrong crowd. Like
Yeah.
they never go up to Tyrone and say, you need
Yeah.
to stop being so divisive to white people.
Exactly.
Like they never tell the Troons maybe you should like chill
Exactly.
out and stop freaking out.
Yes.
They never tell the Rainbow Mafia to chill out and stop being so divisive.
It's always directed at us when we're winning. Like
Yeah.
when the right wing's
Or not even
points of
winning.
view.
It's just whenever I guess that is winning. Like it avoids them having to actually go to work within what we're presenting.
Yes. Yeah.
It's denial. It's just like I don't want to like it's like again, it's if I say we need to go Singapore on crime, it's racist. But if Tyrone says I hate all white people and I'm sick of these whiteys, I want to burn their house down, then it's no one ever tells him to stop being divisive.
Exactly. Yeah.
And these cucks will be like, oh, I would. I definitely would if I heard it. It's like,
No,
no,
you
you
wouldn't.
wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't though, because in your lizard brain, you know that Tyrone will kill you, or you might even think he has a
Or
right to
even
kill you.
exactly, it's
You might
even
even be
more
fine with it.
nefarious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when you try and get them to boil it down, they start moving the goalposts, and then they inevitably get to the well, you're wrong, they're right, and it's like, okay, then who's being divisive now?
Like if you were to ask like Hunter Biden in this interview, like, okay, what do you think the left needs to tone down on? I'm sure you have a list of things you think the right needs to tone down its rhetoric on. What do you think the left should do to tone down the rhetoric? I can almost guarantee that Hunter or most liberals and leftists would say the only thing the left needs to turn down is its anti-Semitism because it's getting a
Or
little out of control. Like
or
that's
they end up pivoting to the just what is it? Crowder talked about this a while back when he looked at that opening clip on that really cringe news show from HBO a while back. How
uh-huh.
like they always present as like, well, the Democrats are too nice, They're just
Yeah.
too nice. They get walked all over.
Right, right. It's like that Simpsons clip where they were making fun of the Republicans and
We're too
Democrats.
nice. We're
Exactly.
actually evil.
No, no, the Republicans was like, we are evil and we want to kill you. And the Democrats' problem was we're incompetent at governing or something like that. It's like it's never that their principles are wrong. It's just that they just fall over themselves stupidly whenever they're
Well,
trying to
it
help
also
people.
presents it also helps them dehumanize the enemy and be
Yeah.
like, they're just pure evil. There's no other side of the coin. They're just pure evil, so we have to be evil back type thing.
Yeah, yeah. But in
But the irony is it's complete opposite. Like if you go up to these Fox boomers,
uh-huh. Oh,
they're gonna be trying to like they're too nice.
they are
They're
truly
gonna
too
be
nice.
like one thing I've noticed in just in the past, and it's really funny, and I'm not saying this is good, bad, or indifferent, but I've noticed. So I have some black people who work for me,
Uh-huh.
and I used to always fear if we're working out in the sticks on a project that they're gonna get glared at. It's gonna be like, and this is me saying this, like I always have that like,
Uh-huh.
oh, is this a sundown town type thing?
Yeah, you're
Am I
like
gonna have
trying
to like,
exactly. You're
or
like
is like the
trying to
neighbor gonna
protect them. Yeah.
yeah, and then it's like it doesn't like we've gone and they even joke about this. They're like, we go to the sticks and there's like just your typical redneck house with like uh, an 80-year-old Trump signs all over, and they always come up, shake hands, say
Right.
like, "Wow, you guys are working really hard. You guys really
Of
do a
course.
good." And it's always just like if they go out of their way to like, and like my guys are all nice, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
always ends up being
But
endearing. But they go out of their way to like not to like kind of not frame themselves as like they're aware of the
exactly.
stereotype,
Yeah.
and it's just so that's why I always laugh when I hear sundown towns. It's like
Yeah.
I literally have black employees wearing do-rags digging holes out in the sticks,
Right.
and they always get treated like gold. It's
Well,
hilarious.
and the idea that that 80-year-old who comes out and says, "You guys are working really hard. You want a glass of water?" The idea that that person is like just as responsible for the division in society as like Hassan Piker is ridiculous because I guess the counter argument would be, well, you guys have Nick Fuentes. Okay, yeah, he's a little bombastic sometimes, maybe, but that is not representative of the average boomer. The average
Well, it's
shitlib is
also
much closer to Hassan.
who gets stifled and stepped on more, Nick or Hassan?
Yeah, exactly. Hassan is meeting with like AOC and doing kick
Well,
streams
and that's the
like
thing,
with the
and
DNC.
they just gaslight everybody on it. And they'll be like, "Oh, he's irrelevant. You got what are you guys
Right,
whining about him for? He's a
right.
nobody. He has no influence." It's like,
He's incredibly
unfortunately, he
relevant.
does.
He does. He just does. So yeah, this whole we're just so divided. No, 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 not we're just so divided. What we've gone over here is that
Or it's
are,
like, yes, we are,
like
but
we are
you're
actually
coming
divided,
at it
but
from the wrong angle.
it's primarily your fault or your people's fault, maybe not Hunter Biden, but it's his group's fault. And yeah, I mean liberals only say this when they're trying to disarm the right wing. Maybe I would
Or
rephrase that.
it's
Yeah, not,
basically a way. It always translates to give us what we want,
right, right.
or else you're wrong for not completely caving to us.
Exactly. It's like what leftists do with the abortion argument. They say, "Oh, you're right wing and you're anti-abortion. Well, then why don't you support funding all the programs that I'm listing off here?" So you're basically
That's like
saying,
we do. They actually have pregnancy
"Well, they
centers, and you
do,
guys firebomb them.
and you want more programs, and you're basically saying, and give me money or I'll kill this
Have you
baby." That's
noticed that?
basically what they're saying.
I know this is kind of like off topic from the video, but have you noticed that whole angle has completely stopped in the discourse of abortion?
What angle?
Well, the whole well, you don't support the kid when they're born type thing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that has completely died off with Zoomers, and it has turned into just a militant. No, you're giving us this or else.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
It's not even a nuanced debate like it
Yeah.
was 10
They've
years ago.
they've abandoned like the morality behind it. They're not
Even
trying
though
to.
it was all fake and it was all
Oh
like, oh,
yeah.
why don't you support this? Why don't you support that? So, and but the thing is, it's turned dark to a
Yeah.
point where it's just like, no, like we want it, and F you if you don't support it.
Yeah, yeah, they've abandoned like the morality. They're like done, I guess in their mind, they're done equivocating. Like they're done
So,
trying to say like, well, but what about you? I think that that like leftist Zoomers now would just say, yeah, abortion's good. It's a good thing. And like they wouldn't,
that's literally, and I think it's playing with millennials too
uh-huh, like
in that
militant
demographic.
millennials. Yeah,
Well, not
like
even
the
militant, but just like I I should say that, or it's like female millennials.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know how
yeah.
they
Yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah, that's
But the
true.
thing is, it's really terrifying because I don't know how it is in Texas, but here it's like the commercials used to be like they would never even touch that topic in commercials. It doesn't matter. I mean, the right would always touch on that topic because it played a lot more,
Right.
but like you would never see a Democrat running on like a proud abortion stance.
No, same thing
It
with
was
James
like
Tallarico. Yeah.
they'd pick they would use their word they would use their pro-choice platform in a very they
Like
were really
targeted.
careful with their words.
Yeah, yeah, it was
And
very
now it's just
targeted.
like overt, just like he doesn't support abortion, and it's like they're just outright with it now,
Yeah, yeah, that's
and
been an area where
it's
they've,
just one of
yeah,
those decorum things that like you didn't used to see.
that's true. Yeah, I completely agree. I see that's more like an Austin thing in Texas, but but you get traces of it. So yeah, I know what you mean, man. Yeah, that has been a big change really in the last like I don't know, 10 years or so, maybe a little less, something
It's
like that. Yeah.
money off of it. I think that these social media companies that are controlled by what three,
so
four, five,
played out, and it was
individuals.
just rhetoric, and it was just each side was just repeating the same rhetoric.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Uh sorry, I think you cut out for a second and I think this
But
video
I
may.
was just saying that like it was played out, and now it's like in some sense it's more honest that rhetoric's
Yeah.
done, but
Yeah,
it's also more alarming because
because
it's not a discussion anymore.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they've ended the discussion and have moved on to just like definitively saying it. It's true.
I don't think we are nearly as divided as they're telling us we are. Because I do believe that there are an identifiable group of people that are responsible for an enormous amount of the discord and division because they make money off of it. I think that these social media companies that are controlled by what, three, four, five,
See,
individuals have made it clear that they only care about one thing. They only care about how much money they can produce for themselves and, the people that hold stocks in their company. Even to
and see, that's so like we don't have to spend forever on this, but like that is so par for the course of what I expected Biden to say there. Like, yeah, it's like he's dog whistling the right wing. He's like, there is an identifiable group of people who are responsible for your suffering. And then he goes, it's the companies. It's the companies. And they and their freaking money loving, they're you know what I mean? Like, of course he's going
Yeah,
after the companies. And it's like, I don't even totally disagree that that there's some nefarious stuff happening with Google and you know how they can censor the internet. Okay, fair. But there's also something deeper happening there, and it's just funny that liberals always go towards like the company's argument, the monopoly argument. They're trying to relive Occupy Wall Street. They're trying to tap into that energy again, and it might work because the DSA is gaining power in the Democrat Party. So it actually might work.
the degree where we know for certain that they're driving teenage girls to the highest levels of suicide by a factor, like exponential factors,
what?
directly related to the content that they're
Oh,
being pushed.
get
They won't do
out of
it.
here!
So
And so to the
that's going to be an interesting thing when the social media argument. I think that that's what we're going to see next. Honestly, is people blaming the mental health of the youth, blaming social media for it, and using that as a springboard to rein in the social media companies. I think it's BS what they're claiming, but if that tones down on if they're able to kind of rein in the social media companies a little bit, I there are worse arguments to use, I guess, but
But
it's
I
it's
don't even
definitely going to
believe the
play.
whole
It's going to play in
uh
the suburbs,
young
though.
girls killing themselves thing.
It's definitely going to play with like teenage girls' moms and stuff who didn't have social media as kids, and then saying like, "My daughter is sad because of damn Twitter." You know what I mean?
Well, it will be interesting to see if millennials and Zoomers kind of take that stand when they start having, or with more of them entering parenthood.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think you're going to get a lot of buy-in from millennials for that kind of argument that he's making there. That and it's also funny that it when they talk about social media, they're all afraid of the girls hurting themselves. When they talk about men in social media, they're worried about them like watching
Or they're worried about their effect. It's their fault. They're going to end up blaming men for
Yeah,
half
no,
of the
you're right.
reason,
Yeah.
because
Actually, you're right. You're right.
that's how it always turns.
Actually, you're right. This is going to turn anti-male very quickly. It's going to be like it's going to be one of these women on TikTok who's complaining about the dating scene, and they're going to use that to like prove that men are making women sad on social media because there aren't enough good men. There's going to be like a good men council or something under the Democrats. Like, where are the good men? I see this
They have
happening,
the
man.
audacity to point out bad behavior.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like the men are being too mean to our precious princesses on social media. Yeah, that's true.
Same degree, I think a lot of what you call wokeness was maybe an illegitimate, but a financial decision based on a lot of these
Corporate
What?
style, maybe.
That is a
corporate.
Yeah, see, that's another thing that they're going with a lot is that wokeness was actually a play by the capitalists. Uh, that's simply not true though,
That just breaks my
because they
brain.
were because they were willing to lose money in order to be woke. It actually proves that capitalism will bend the knee to ideology, because a lot of times these companies were taking, like Target, for example. There was some black hair care brand that they started carrying at Target because they had an initiative within the company to like promote black owned brands or something. And the thing didn't sell. It was like a 93, it was like a loss leader or something in its category, like, or no, I'm using that term wrong, but it wasn't selling at all. If you don't have wokeness, you wouldn't have had that brand in the store. That's just a small anecdote, but it's like these stores were willing to lose money if it meant they could check off the DEI box. So that's BS. It wasn't a moneymaker for them. You cannot blame capitalism for wokeness, not at all. It it
Yeah.
wokeness existed like regardless of profit. That's the thing. So
Well, and
absurd.
it's like with Hollywood,
Yeah, Hollywood, great. Yeah,
it basically became a skin suit of, well, we have the biggest IPs known to man. We're
right.
gonna make complete crap with them, and if you don't like it, too bad. We're just gonna say you didn't watch it because you're a racist.
Exactly. Um, Yeah, yeah. I was thinking about the Hollywood example. Yeah, I mean they put out trash movies that were losing money all the time during peak wokeness. So I don't know where they're getting that, but I've noticed that talking point also from just like normie Democrats. They're like, well, it was actually the capitalists that wanted wokeness to rile you up against your fellow man. It's like this is too convoluted. You're lying to me. Yeah, I don't trust that at all. They are going with that quite a bit.
Ugh.
Oops, hold
Thank you.
I mean, by the way, exactly. I mean,
I just wanted to back up real quick. So you talked about certain people going too far. About 2.5 months ago, I visited a whites only community in Hardy, Arkansas. And I don't know why. I guess coming from like a more like left wing place, I'm from Seattle. I kind of assumed there was like a united front on the right for some reason. So I'm out there, I'm chilling with these dudes. They're like sword fighting, having barbecues. Overall, it was a good time for them. I had a hard time connecting with them because I don't agree with them, but it's all good. I was having fun for a couple days. And then like right as I was there, I guess you had hit them up on X or something and said like, hey, I don't want to associate with you guys. What happened there?
Well, that was really more of a personal disagreement with the guy that founded it.
Yeah.
But I do think it's an interesting project, and it's interesting that got so much pushback, this whites-only community, because you know what? If you go to a lot of these different neighborhoods in major cities, there are ethnic enclaves, and it's not like there's an explicit rule that you have to be a certain ethnicity, but we all know in Chicago and New York and LA, you got certain neighborhoods where it is 80, 90% one ethnicity.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of white people that say, we kind of want something similar. I don't think there's anything.
Well, okay, let's back up. If you want to talk about the histories of New York and Chicago, I feel like that was also a conscious decision that was made like
I
after
tell
the
you
civil
what,
rights
so,
act.
blacks.
That's such a liberal move. Like the annoying shit lib who like you make a point about, I think like Nick says something very basic that I think he says like I think white people generally want to live around other white people. And Hunter goes, Nick, come on, Nick. Like that's not that ridiculous of an assertion.
No, not at
Like
all.
when people are allowed to freely associate, it's not a one to one. It's not like when people are given that choice
No one
You
ever
know, they
says, "Wow, all these Indians are moving in the same neighborhood."
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Or I mean,
Like,
people do, but like, you know what I mean? It's like it's
yeah,
not viewed as it's not. It's and I know this is gonna sound very 2016, but like it's really just nonsense. It's always just one group when they make the natural decision
right.
to live amongst each other. It gets
Right.
vilified.
Yeah, yeah. I love that there's just no like argument. It's just like a laughing, throwing your hands in the air. Like, yeah, most races do prefer to be with each other, given total freedom of association.
Well, and that's the thing I always laugh about when they talk about cities being segregated. It's like there's no rule that says
Right,
you have to live in this neighborhood. It's like the
exactly.
choices get made.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the Jared Taylor always used to talk about the church test, that most like the vast majority of churches in the US are of at least 95% one race. So they're like of all denominations. So pretty
That's
much
a good point.
every church is like the religion is kind of a representation of race in that example.
I've
And
never
when
heard that. I've never heard that from him, but that's
the
actually a really,
vast
really profound thing.
the vast majority of churches are only one race. So whether it's obviously the different races, that's true. And it's like when I go to my Catholic parish, there's no sign at the door that says like no blacks allowed. But like when you look around, oh, there's like one or two black guys, maybe some Hispanic people, but it's
So I was
overwhelmingly
going to
white.
ask, what's the demographic with Hispanics in your parish?
Oh, it's pretty small.
Because
It's
I've always wondered the same thing, where it's like, I've very rarely seen. I mean, at the parishes I went to growing up, it was
uh-huh.
pretty much all white.
Yeah, yeah, it depends
But
on
like, with Catholicism, there's a heavy Mexican population here,
y
and it's just
yeah.
it separates itself.
It falls along the lines of what Jared Taylor said. It's so like the area we go to mass in is a pretty affluent area of Dallas, and it turns out that like 95, 96% of the parish is white. If I go like if we have to go to a different parish because we're running late or something, if you go to like where I grew up, which is all Hispanic now, it wasn't when I grew up, but it's like 95% Hispanic now where I live or where I grew up. That parish, if we go there, is like again 95% Hispanic. So like it's just the different races kind of like going to mass based on the area they're in, and
That's
most people
interesting
tend
too,
to
because
live in the
like
same area.
we live in completely different parts of the country, but like I've never once seen this wildly diverse Catholic parish.
Exactly. And it's not, and the argument against Catholics is always that they're like too anti-racist, which the stats do kind of bear that out a little bit. But when Catholics get total freedom of association and it's not a sin to like go to church where people look like you, the numbers bear out what how they behave. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So that's just a feather in Nick's cap there because Biden is just like casually laughing at the idea that people group up by race. That's not ridiculous at all.
Well, okay, let's back up. If you want to talk
That's
about
funny.
the histories of New York and Chicago, I feel like that was
Yeah.
also a conscious decision that was made like
I
after
tell
the
you
civil
where
rights
it's
act.
blacks only. It's in Cabrini Green, where Mayor Daley made everybody that was black live in the Cabrini Green. I mean, it's not. It wasn't
No,
by
he
choice.
didn't.
It's not
by
a choice
force
with these
with the
ethnic
No,
police.
he didn't. No, that's a total lie. That's he's basically saying that the black people were shoved into the projects. It was low income housing. It was made for them as a way for them to have cheaper rent. They're the ones that ruined the projects. Like they weren't shoved into these these gas chambers. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, they
he
weren't
didn't
rounded. It
they
wasn't
weren't
like rounded
rounded
up and
up.
dropped off.
It was public housing that they and blacks wanted cheaper housing, so they moved here. And then what happens when you put a bunch of low housing blacks together in one building? You get the Cabrini projects, you get the famous projects in St. Louis, in New York. Like this is the story of America, Joe or Hunter, sorry.
place, or 80 or 90%, whatever that ethnicity is. It's because that's the only place in which they had an opportunity to live unbothered, or where they were
What?
told that they had to live because of
Unbothered.
the
What?
historical
Interesting.
fact that
Yeah.
they could not move into other neighborhoods. You could not move into parts of South Chicago without, being stoned.
No, what? With being stoned? What is he talking about? He's conflating like two different eras.
It's
He's like
it's yeah.
conflating Jim Crow with like the mid 80s. Like
And yeah,
he views it as just one long story where
It's
you could
also
just put
movie
in random
brain.
details. Yeah, yeah,
It's complete movie brain, but also he never talks about. Funny how no one ever brings up what happens, like with the boomers who always say, "Oh, here's $120,000 starter house," and it's in
right.
like the worst neighborhood of Cleveland. Like none of these people ever talk about what happens when you move there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. What happens to a white person who moves into that $100,000 house you keep sharing? Well, their car is going to get stolen. They may get robbed. There's going to be bullets flying through their window. No, yeah, nobody wants to talk about that. And here he's conflating like Jim Crow with the 80s, I guess. And he's just saying like they were forced there, but it was the only place they could live unbothered, which implies they chose to live there. It's just a grab bag of liberal mythos. You know what I mean? Total grab bag terms.
Right.
Literally, right?
Yeah,
And so,
but
like so it's not as if those ethnic enclaves are there by choice. And so that
Also, ethnic enclaves do exist for like specific variations of different Europeans. Like, there is like places that are chocolate. Like South Philly's full of
but
Italians.
there's a little Italy and there's a little
So
Korea
I
and
think
there's a
the
little
issue,
Japan.
what I
Yeah.
always like, what confused me the most about the whites only community is like there's just so many different kinds of white people in America. So like to establish a unified white culture with a
What a
place so diverse and
weird.
full of like different regional flavors just kind of felt confusing to me.
Yeah, honestly, that's so trite. Because because they're individuals within the group doesn't exist. It's like I'm going to start a short people community. Well, there's a guy in there who's 5'4.5", and he's not 5'4", so there's no such thing as
Well,
short
what
people.
happens to the 5'9" guys?
Yeah,
Can the
exactly. Oh,
five
well,
nine guys join?
so there's no such thing as a short person. We don't know what short people are. I don't know what a short person looks like because a guy who's in the middle exists. Like this is so honestly, we talk about things being 2016 coded. That kind of response to like white identity is 2016 coded. Well, what about the group, or what about individuals within the group? That's been asked and answered.
Well, and
You can tell a white
it
person when you see one. You can tell a black person when you see one.
will end up be like what the
99% of the
Italian
time.
and Irish neighborhoods. Like that. If I don't know the anthropology of it, but if you look at Irish and Italian immigrants, there's a huge intermarriage between those two groups.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's one of those things where, and it's also, I don't know, it's different. I
Well,
know that's like not really an
no,
answer,
but
but
you're
it
right
is.
though, and they also like that is a form, it's really like the ultimate form of assimilation is intermarriage, especially among groups like that are like both European. I'm not shilling race mixing. I'm saying that they were so integrated that they truly saw themselves as American in a way that even blacks that have been here for 400 years are not assimilated. Black people generally don't view themselves as a part of the American story in the same way that if you were to ask, or completely differently than if you were to ask an Italian today, their lineage in America. Like there would be pride with it. They see themselves as a part of the American story. A lot of these immigrants and blacks do not assimilate the same way and do not see themselves as fundamentally American.
Well,
So in the
especially
way that
if
the
you're
Irish and
looking at
Italians did.
Asian, because it's completely different with Asian and
Right.
Asian, Latin American, and just basically FBAs.
Right, right. Yeah, it's a totally different thing. So it's a disingenuous comparison.
That can mean a different thing depending on what part of the country or what European enclave you originated from. Like we're Irish people from the Philly area. Can you compare that to like, surfers in San Diego or even like, Italian Americans in Staten Island? I don't know. Everything just feels so different. So when I got there, I was trying to identify what they meant by white culture. It wasn't really based on shared like cultural practices, but more the exclusion of people who weren't white. So they weren't like stoked on being European necessarily. They were more just like, oh, we're here because those people aren't here. So it just kind of felt more negative than constructive.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not
And
really involved with that project in
Yeah, and
yeah,
okay,
I'm
is
not really
okay.
seeing a problem.
So because they're exclusive, that's like exactly. And is that a crime to be exclusive? I mean,
Like,
maybe
and
it's a
again, and this isn't a point of hypocrisy, but like, if you move to the blackest neighborhood in your city, no one's gonna think what you're doing is noble.
right,
Nobody's gonna scorn the neighborhood for not accepting you.
exactly. You could almost see like an organized campaign by FBAs to like keep white people out of their historically black neighborhoods, and people
Well,
would
that's why
probably applaud that.
gentrification is such a hilarious concept
Right,
to me. It's like
right,
you're demonizing making a neighborhood better, but what
exactly.
makes the neighborhood better? Very
Well,
interesting when you really boil that down.
well, they don't want the neighborhood to be made better. And then when you like not make it when you give them housing options like the projects, they turn the projects into a war zone. So they can't live in the nice area because it's too nice and they don't like nice. But if you put them in the area for them that's kind of bad or not even bad, it's just neutral, they'll make it bad if they go to the projects. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, I'm tired of trying to engineer society for these kind of like outcomes and these kind of people who like they have to care about it more than I do, and they don't.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? That's always my
exactly.
response is like, I don't hate anybody. I don't wish anyone ill will, but they have to care more about it than I do because I live in a nice area where I don't deal with that. Hopefully that would be enough of an impetus for them to just get out of the bad area, but they don't care, so I don't care, you know?
particular, but I
Yeah,
think that, look, I mean, you talk about the anger that's out there and the frustration. And I think part of the frustration, let's be honest, is that white people do feel like we are being boxed out in major cities in the country. And it feels like, look, there's a little Haiti and there's various ethnic enclaves where you get that local culture and they do their, cultural festivals and that sort of thing. And white people feel like they're being pushed out and they want a space where things are familiar.
Do you feel the same way about the Italian festival that happens in every city?
Well, here's a good example. So,
or St. Patrick's Day?
Well, there's no Irish neighborhood in Chicago. Little
Sure
Italy.
there is.
I mean, there's some
Also,
remnant in
well,
Bridgeport.
there
it's
isn't.
important to note that, like, I'm not trying to get into like, a shouting match here, but like,
Is there not? I don't know the area well enough.
No, I mean, like, maybe Boston's like the last place with like a truly Irish neighborhood,
That's what
and
I've
even
heard
Italian,
actually.
because I mean, outside, I think Irish especially may like I don't know. I've never been to Philly. I don't remember. I think New York's so I hate again to use the term gentrified in a anti-American sense
Uh-huh.
that the only thing I can think of is technically you could say there's Italian neighborhoods on the East Coast, but it's just
Hmm.
there's so many Italians there that it's not like that dominates the area. Like there is a part of Chicago I went to that is it's I can't remember which part, but they have like a fake leaning tower of Pisa that's like
Okay.
5 stories tall. I mean, I went to a good deli there. It's really, I mean, it's like the northern part of the city,
Hmm.
and it was interesting, but I wouldn't say it's like an episode of The Sopranos or like
Yeah,
where it's just
yeah,
like everyone's walking down the street in tracksuits.
yeah. It's
So
so
like that's the thing. It's like with like what they're trying to claim, that doesn't exist anymore. There
yeah,
is no Italian. Like there is like yeah, there might be an area that has a couple Italian delis that have been there for if it's like a collection of businesses that have been there for
yeah,
a
but
long time. But
it's not like the identity of the neighborhood or
yeah,
something.
exactly. And I mean, like I said, it might be I think the East Coast is like slightly different. I think that's the exception because
Okay,
I think
yeah, that
sheer
makes sense.
numbers, but
Right. Well,
it's not like it was. I don't think it's been that way since the 80s.
well, and also the sheer numbers prove our point earlier about given freedom of association, people will just like get link up with their own for the most part. So
Yeah,
it's like
but
not to,
even so, in those neighborhoods, there's no strong push to be like keep the neighborhood Irish,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
keep the
That's true.
neighborhood German.
Right.
Like I think like you to go back to like the German, Italian, Irish, English, Scottish, blah blah blah, all Western Europe basically.
Right.
That identity has blended so seamlessly into America
We had a
that
president named Eisenhower after World War II. His name
yeah,
was Eisenhower, and he fought against the Germans valiantly. Like that is ultimate assimilation, you
so,
know?
and that's the thing. It's all assimilated and diluted into one, which I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm
Right.
saying that just in a matter of fact way.
In
But like
in an assimilation way, right?
what
But
they're talking about with Mexican or FBA neighborhoods
uh-huh.
or Mexican enclaves and FBA enclaves, or even other Central American enclaves, it's not the same because it's
No.
pure on like, or even like you see in Europe with Middle Eastern enclaves. It's like it's worse than it ever was with Little Italy's and Irish neighborhoods
Oh
because
yeah.
it's full. Like okay, Detroit, that's a great example
Yeah.
with Dearborn. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not little enclaves. That's conquering and
Right.
basically creating small little city states separate from the country.
Right. Right. And they absolutely do militantly guard against outsiders moving in. That's also the difference. It's just
Yeah,
it's so funny that this standard, it's not, it's just like, again, maybe this is an outdated talking point, but like it's so funny that this is only like these things about, well, Nick, the Germans exist and Irish exist, so how can you say they're white? That is only used against white people. They don't go to the FBAs and say, well, you're from the Congo and your ethnicity is from Ghana. And they don't say to the Mexicans, well, you're from northern Mexico and you're darker than them. So what is La Raza? Or they don't say to the Southeast Asians, they don't say, well, actually, you're pro-Asian parade, which they have. That it's
you're
not
Thai,
legitimate.
you're Han.
Exactly. Like they would never do that. It's only given to white people to appreciate their little mosaics of identity. But because if any of these Italians and Irish got together and had like a pro-white parade, they would obviously denounce that, you know. So it's only
Yep.
ever used against the European ethnicity.
As a family who did, coming from a family who did leave Philadelphia in the 60s because of black migration from the South, after the Civil Rights Act was passed, there was a sort of like mass flight of white people into the suburbs, and that kind of led to a homogenization of different cultures because they rushed so fast to build these like identical strip mall suburbs that it was very hard to maintain cultural bonds that made different European and white neighborhoods unique.
I think that's actually a good point, honestly. The suburbs had a kind of a unified an assimilation effect on different groups because they were basically fleeing black crime in the cities.
Around like the 1950s and before. So I feel like the mass suburbanization is also a big factor that led to those like cultural bonds breaking.
Yeah, but why did that happen? I mean, a lot of the suburbanization is because of the race riots in the 1960s. People moved out because of the violence. You know, my grandfather was in the National Guard in Chicago when, after MLK got assassinated, the whole West Side burned to the ground. Yeah. People didn't want to be around that anymore.
Why were the riots?
MLK Jr. was assassinated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so does that justify burning down the city?
No, I didn't say it's justified.
I love how Biden just like nods his head as if like it's self-evident that it's okay to burn down a city if somebody gets killed.
Nick's about. I'm curious what Nick's about to say.
He's just like nodding
After
along.
MLK got assassinated, the whole West Side burned to the ground. Yeah. People didn't want to be around that anymore.
Why were the riots?
MLK Jr. was assassinated.
Yeah.
And so does that justify burning down the city?
No, I didn't say it justifies it, but it sure justifies an enormous.
Well, yes, you did.
The same kind of anger that you feel about being left out. The same kind of anger that you're expressing right now about the idea that you.
So now it's just a rant about feeling excluded, and he's running cover for their violence.
It's back and forth because it's just like he smugly goes, "Oh yeah, why did they do it?" And it's like, okay, but that doesn't justify it. Whoa, I never said this.
I never said it does.
Did.
I'm just saying that this is the language of the unheard. You know, like you are running cover for it if you're going to give a soliloquy about, you know, why they would feel that way. That's what running cover looks like. That is this.
Culturally irrelevant, that you don't have a place in society. Imagine if you were a 26-year-old black man in 1968 and saw your hero be assassinated.
I saw Trump get shot in the ear, and
did he?
And I saw Charlie Kirk get shot, and I didn't see any cities get burned down. It's funny.
I think it's a very, very, very different thing. I think it's
different. Charlie Kirk got shot in the neck.
Yeah.
And liberals celebrated all over social media by Tyler Robinson.
Yeah. Who is what?
Who is some liberal guy.
He is?
Mm-hmm.
But
he's got a transgender boyfriend.
Does that makes him liberal? Because he's transgender? Because he's gay?
Well, because he's got a transgender boyfriend.
Oh, this is tedious. That's very disappointing. That's very disappointing from Hunter Biden right there. I know that he's not like a scholar or like a genius, but I expected more engagement on the ideas than that because that is a fair comparison. It's like that's a very
unfair.
And
he opened the gate for that.
And then what is the response? It's, are you sure Tyler Robinson was? Yeah, I think he was liberal if he shot Charlie Kirk in the neck. I don't think he
But he's trying to dance around the fact that Nick just made a very, very good point based off
off of his
what
own
Hunter put on the table.
Off of his exactly. And that's what this is incredibly tedious and disappointing from Hunter here. Wow.
By Tyler Robinson.
Yeah. Who is what?
Who is some liberal guy.
He is?
Mm-hmm.
But
he's got a transgender boyfriend.
Does that makes him liberal? Because
he's sidestepped the entire point.
Well, because he's got a transgender boyfriend. Yeah, I think so.
It makes him liberal.
I think he was liberal. Yeah.
What?
Okay. Well, he didn't come from a liberal family. He didn't come from a liberal enclave.
Okay.
He didn't come from a liberal background. He's not a minority. He was a Mormon, correct? Mm-hmm. And grew up in a Mormon household. And he went to a largely Mormon college.
What are we talking about? What are we talking about here? What? I mean, Nick is being cordial and isn't. That was one of the complaints I saw from people was that Nick let Hunter cut him off too much. Maybe so, but I think everybody can see, if you're a thinking person, you can see how disingenuous this is. Because what are we talking about now? What are we talking about? We're talking about Mormon colleges? Dude, he was a leftist and he killed Charlie Kirk. Like, and the original,
But the real point was phenomenal because he goes, "Well, how would you feel if your hero got killed?" And Nick
and Nick
brought up
gives
that,
two examples: Trump
yeah,
almost, and Charlie Kirk, who was killed, and there's no engagement with that.
Committing an act of violence,
it's knowing.
according to the
Oh,
FBI and
I'm curious if we get back to it.
the authorities in Utah that charged them. How does that in any way compare
Okay,
to what
okay.
we're talking about? I'm not justifying the violence that occurred after the death of Martin Luther King, but
Yeah,
you're saying that that person, this Tyler, whoever his name is it was as disenfranchised as the African American community in 1968 in inner
wait,
city.
no one
What?
said
Who we
that.
want to live around. I'm not
What?
living around.
Wait, hold on.
Whoa,
So
whoa, 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 whoa! That just completely obfuscated the entire point. That has
so
nothing to do with anything.
no,
That
nothing at
just
all.
contorted everything around. It's like he did. This is like some Jedi mind trick stuff.
So you're
And
saying that they are just as disenfranchised as blacks in the 60s? No,
but
he's
then he tried to
talking
say it about Tyler Robinson. It has nothing to do with Tyler Robinson. It
right,
has anything to do with the hypothetical person that looked up to Charlie.
exactly. And the fact that no cities were burned down after, I mean, there's actually a very good comparison between Martin Luther King and Charlie Kirk. They were very outspoken. They weren't politicians, but they were kind of a sounding board for their constituency. They said things that their constituency didn't feel like they could say. You know, say what you will about Charlie, but that was his role. They were both public speaker. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like
Yeah,
this isn't apples to oranges. That is a direct comparison. Charlie Kirk and Martin Luther King, both shot. One of them resulted in cities being burned down and whites having to flee. The other one did not. And Biden says, is it or how can you compare the racism that blacks experience to whites today? I think you can make that argument, but that's not what we're talking about.
but I'm more
Absurd.
offended by the fact that he then goes, "What are you trying to say that Tyler Robinson was oppressed?" And it's like, well, but that's not even remotely the point.
Yeah,
The
but
point,
that would
yeah, that's what he says.
that would be more applicable if Tyler Robinson were a groyper. You see what I mean?
Or that
Like
would
if
be more, or if, or if let's just say, and let's just say a right wing person killed Hassan.
right, right.
If that
Yes,
happened,
that
that
would
would
be
be
more
more.
exactly.
That would be a more apt comparison.
Yes, exactly. Because that person, you would think, if they would they would probably talk about the disenfranchisement of whites,
Yeah,
probably, just like Mark. That would be a more yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, very disappointing. So I mean, Nick's response is who do Nick kind of let him get away with it. Whatever. He has his own strategy for dealing with Hunter, but I think everybody sees that. Nick says that the question is who do you want to live around, which does tie it back to the suburb issue. So fair enough.
This Tyler, whoever his name is it was as disenfranchised as the African American community in 1968 in inner cities.
Well, the question is who we want to live around.
I'm not living around blacks. Sorry. I want white kids, and I don't want my white kids bringing home black people to marry.
And in the 1960s, the West Side burns down. We don't want to live around that. We don't want to live around a
That's
city
not
that's
when
burning
it happened.
down.
That's not when the white flight happened.
It is.
No,
Yes,
It's a
it
big
is.
response to it. Absolutely.
100% not.
It is 100% when it happened. It happened in the 60s.
it was a slow process over like. I mean, it happened all the way through into the early '90s in
Dude,
a lot of cities.
we're getting a neo white flight happening in the very large metroplexes, at least like Dallas. The cities that were the site of the original white flight are now experiencing white flight from those cities because now the Indians are moving into those cities. So
Yep.
now there are multiple layers of rings on the Dallas map. Some of them represent the white flight from the 60s, and then some of them represent the 90s, and then the furthest north rings represent like since 2020 white flight. So yeah, it's just a process that's been happening. And to say that like black crime had nothing to do with this is ridiculous. I think any person who studies that would at least maybe they would even call it white racism, let's say. Maybe they wouldn't give the white people their due and say they were justified. Maybe they would blame racism, but everybody knows that it was a response to the Civil Rights Act, the race riots, school integration. Like these were all factors. Race was absolutely a factor.
Connections that don't exist. Part of it was potentially, but before that, what Mayor Daley did is made Chicago the most segregated city in the entire United States, other than Boston. When you would come from the South to Chicago, African Americans from the South, blacks in the South coming to Chicago would say that Chicago was twice the level of segregation and racism that occurred in the South. And so it wasn't as if you're
Oh man, a black guy said racism worse here than there. Never heard that before. Let's reorganize society for that guy.
coming into a situation in which you're feeling in any way enfranchised by the community and the situation that you're in. And as many people left simply because of the idea that someone was black moving into their neighborhood as the violence that occurred after the assassination of Martin Luther King. So the numbers actually, pre-1968, when King was shot, you had more people leave the city because of the desegregation, because of the 1964 Civil Rights Act than you did.
That's what I just said. It wasn't all King's death, but it all had a racial component. And frankly, white people didn't want to live near black people. And I think most races feel that way about other groups. So I don't really know what the beef here is. That's what we're saying.
After the riots.
I think that's just not true. I think that the race riots were a huge driver of white flight to the suburbs. I think it's just dishonest to say that's not the case.
Okay, so what's your point about all this?
Well, we're talking about where people want to live.
Yeah, I know. So like what in 2026?
Well, how about in 2020 when Minneapolis burned to the ground? Or how about in the summer of 2020 in Chicago?
Minneapolis didn't burn to the ground.
Oh my
didn't?
gosh.
No, I mean there were
BLM
parts
didn't
of it
destroy
that-
dozens of
If you guys need
Oh my gosh. We're doing all the liberal tropes at this point. Like, yeah, okay, maybe BLM burned down a few government buildings, but the city's still there, so clearly it wasn't destroyed. Okay.
It wasn't burned down and leveled.
Yeah,
but, like,
it wasn't leveled.
it
There's
wasn't
still-
leveled like Nagasaki.
I was in Minneapolis the other day and there are still buildings there, so clearly the blacks were not misbehaving, and they've never misbehaved.
a
Ever.
physical witness to what happened in Minneapolis. There were many structures that burned to the ground. Not the city, but there was, I would say, between 40 to 50 buildings off of Lake Street in the south side that did burn to the ground. But most of the city was intact, but it was quite an intense situation.
People don't want to live around that. People don't want to live around that. You know, in Chicago, it rolled on into the summer, and it wasn't, you know, let's say, the anger of the oppressed and the disenfranchised.
So
They
who's
were
at fault?
looting. They were looting and
Who's
carjacking.
they?
The criminals.
Are you saying that the problem with the 26-year-old white kid living in suburbia outside of Chicago and his feeling of being disenfranchised is because there was looting and rioting in Minneapolis by black people? And it's black people that are doing it.
Yeah.
That's so dismissive too. The liberals always do this where I mean, you know what I mean? Like the typical Democrat voter city person who's like, what a chud. You can't deal with a couple stabbings on the way to the subway.
Yeah, what? You can't deal with being stabbed?
Like, just walk over that puddle of piss from the homeless guy masturbating in the corner. It's not affecting you. And they always do that. And I really hate that because crime is a real factor in people's lives and things that people consider. To act like it's irrational to not want to be around the group that's perpetrating most of the violent crime, like acting like that's a ridiculous, like scared thing to do, like a pussy thing to do, is ridiculous. Like, I have a family. I'm not going to go to areas where I think there's a lot of black people on a Saturday night because I'm not going to get my car stolen with my daughter in the car seat. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
those are real considerations, and to just write that off as like, well, then you're a pussy. Then you're saying that that's the biggest thing in your life. It's like, yeah, my wife getting shot in the head while we're getting carjacked would probably be the biggest moment of my life. Yeah, I think so. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's so dismissive, and you know, these are the people that wouldn't care if you or I were shot because they found our Twitter account. You know,
I
exactly.
mean, the problem with Austin Metcalf was that he got stabbed in the neck at a track meet. And the problem with our city in Chicago is that the Magnificent Mile is gone. Water Tower Place is gone because of all the crime.
Nick, and the problem, an entire generation of African Americans is that they've been getting killed by cops for decades.
That's
What are
just
you
not
talking
true.
about?
Oh.
Because they commit crime. And
All
listen,
three of them?
it's not.
Nick,
What?
that's not true. It's not
Oh,
true. Are
it
you
is.
saying that police brutality as it relates and racism in the police force, in the way in which police treat African Americans? Nick, you could grow up
Oh
here
my
like I did between
gosh.
Wilmington and Philadelphia. And if you were a black dentist and you lived in Wilmington and you commuted to Philadelphia, the chances of you being pulled over by a state trooper, either Delaware or in Pennsylvania, are about 50 times that would be if it was a white guy.
yeah, because blacks commit most of the crimes, so they fit the description of most criminals, and it's kind of hard to tell it's hard to tell if a guy is a dentist or a criminal, you know, by looking at their face for 3 seconds. Like, yeah, all this stuff is so stupid. Those are just like African American studies and how it relates to criminology 101 or something. Like, these stats are all debunked, and these are just like downloaded talking points from Biden.
50 times. And
We're
so what
talking
you're
about-
trying to tell me is that the problem in America right now is that a 26-year-old white kid who lives in suburban Chicago doesn't feel like he has access because he's been canceled or he's been woke. And the problem is black people.
I didn't say the problem's black people.
Well, you just did, Nick. You just
I said
said
the problem is crime. And we know who's doing the crime in Chicago.
Yeah.
The carjackings, shootings, teen takeovers. We know why there's no business on the Mag Mile anymore. And it's because they steal cars, they drive them through windows. And listen, black people are some of the biggest victims of the black crime. But we're not allowed to talk about it because of the racial
What do you mean you're not
dimension.
allowed to talk about it? We're talking about it right here. You have a platform in which millions of people listen to you, Dick.
I think
Millions.
Well, after Elon had to buy Twitter and open it up. It wasn't like that before. I was banned from everything for many years. So no, you weren't allowed to. You're right. We can talk about it now, but that's only because the good guys
Nick.
won.
Hey,
Well, and the race convo, we could probably.
hey, what's up, guys? There's something I forgot to tell you about.
The race convo is interesting because he is right. It wasn't always like this. Like being able to discuss like black crime and
You used
even
to be
like
able to without it being. I mean, that's the thing. Like that's the Obama era, like Daily
Yeah.
Show style, like gotcha.
exactly.
Like, and you stop being able to discuss it because everyone started grandstanding, trying to LARP as Bill Maher, like and like own the stuffy GOP loser.
Yeah,
by
yeah.
just throwing like zingers, and
Those
that's
are your
why
those are your granddad's politics. And now it's like the grandsons have the same politics. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's funny how it all comes in full circle. But yeah, I mean that was yeah, they really did a good job with the mocking people and like the the Jon Stewart thing or the Bill Maher thing where like they just pan to him and he's just making a silly face when somebody
Yep.
says like crime exists. He's like, "What do you mean crime?" It's like, "Yeah, dude, crime. It exists." Yeah, I remember that time period, man. It's crazy that we've kind of moved past that like race, even like race and IQ is kind of a part of the convo now. So
You went from being banned on Twitter to being on YouTube to creating
I'm
an
not on
entire show.
YouTube.
I know you're not, but now you have Kick and now you have all of these other things. You have an enormous platform. I want to find common ground of how much of a shithead Donald Trump is. We can get to
that'll be interesting. But he did just say
Oh.
right, yeah, I know, and then he's going to try to get Nick to. This is what they always do. They're going to try to get him to like become a leftist on Trump. Anytime leftists hear you say that you like have a critique of Trump, they get hard because they're like, yes, I can win one over. My critique at least of Trump is essentially that he's not far right enough. Like
Yeah.
my issue
See,
is
and they
not
don't like. So they don't like when that ends up being like
exactly.
when it turns to that.
It's like that meme of like the girl in the sitting in the flower patch and she's like, "You hate Donald Trump too." And he's like, "Yes." And she's like, "You hate him as a left winger, right?" And it's just the guy smiling back at her like, "Yeah, no,
The
like
Anakin meme.
yeah, is that what that is? I haven't seen. Okay. Yeah. That's what that is. They really hope that like your critique of Trump will be that he didn't like give black people like enough food stamps and like crab leg money each month, you know?
get there. Okay. What I don't understand is how you didn't recognize that in 2016, and how you didn't recognize that in 2020, and how you didn't recognize that in 2024. Because Donald Trump
I did in
hasn't.
24.
Because Donald Trump hasn't changed. Donald Trump hasn't changed at all. Donald Trump has been Donald Trump since he came out of the womb of a woman that was an immigrant to this country. And so, what I want to know though is that I don't know how we get past this idea that the biggest problem that you have with your personal situation and how you extrapolate that to the situation of other white kids that are your age, that feel disenfranchised, that feel left out, that feel they don't have a shot at the American dream, is because of black and brown people, because of Mexicans, because of Venezuelans, because of Haitians, it's always other, Nick, with you. It seems to me. And I've listened to a lot of the stuff. It's always them. We need to build a wall. Where's the wall, Nick? He never built the wall. Why'd you vote for him in 2020?
But I mean, that's just a perfect example.
I like when they're like, oh, what? They're trying to like do this weird trolling, like, oh, he didn't give you what you want.
Right. So why would I be on your side though? Because they always do
it's
that.
like, shouldn't you be happy?
Yeah. They always say the wall thing is like their favorite, and they're like, huh, yeah, he never built the wall. It's like, yeah, I agree. My critique is that the wall was never built. Like, what your critique is that it's like racist to Mexicans to build the wall. I don't know. Maybe they're just stupid. They think I always kind of feel bad when I get these liberals talking to me who are excited that I'm critiquing Trump, like in my personal life. I almost feel bad because they're thinking that I'm much more aligned with them than I am. I'm like, in my perfect world, like you might be mining like ore or cobalt. Like you might be in the mountains with a pickaxe in my perfect world. Like, don't get too excited about me agreeing with you. I don't understand these people.
Why'd you vote for him in 2024?
I didn't vote for him in 24.
Okay. My point being is that whenever you identify your problem as being something that is other, that you can point to, that's a minority, that is a group of people, that's the Jews, I mean, before, remember, all of us, you know, it was the Irish Catholics who were committing the crime, who weren't allowed into bars, who weren't allowed into, because you know why? Because they were dirty, poor, non-Europeans. They were Irish. Every time it's wrong. Every time history has proven that to be wrong in the United States of America. Every time. Inclusion has been our greatest strength. Diversity has been our greatest strength. And I hear you talk about this idea of white culture. What fucking white culture are you talking about, man?
Oh
What
my
literal
Shakespeare
God.
just changed on that one from earlier.
Oh my
Remember
God.
earlier he was like, you can be. Well, who says you can't be proud of it?
Yeah, yeah,
And then
exactly. And
now
now he's like,
now he's doing this gimmick.
that is so, what is that show? That clip that makes the rounds, the guy who's like, it's a newsroom show and he's on the stage and he's answering the question from that girl and he's like, I want to know, when she's like, what do you think is exceptional about America? And he's
No, I
like,
brought that up earlier. So like, you, as annoying as Crowder is, and my other grievances, he does. Crowder way back when did a phenomenal analysis because it's basically doing the whole. He does the whole Simpsons gag that we talked about earlier. Because
yeah,
there's like
yeah,
a whole point where then like the liberals start like smiling when he's doing that rant.
yeah,
And he goes,
yeah.
"Oh, and don't you smile? Why can't you guys govern anything?"
Like, it's like, why haven't you done a better job putting the conservatives in jail? You know? And
Exactly.
it's like he's doing the same thing here, just with like when that guy was ranting, he was like, "We're last in healthcare, we're last in child mortality or something." Like, I want to know what the fuck you mean by America's great. Hunter's doing the same thing there with white people. He says, quote, I want to know what fucking white culture you're talking about. European culture. How about that? You know, like it's so disingenuous. Like what? Yeah. Diversity is our greatest strength. He's almost outdated on some of these talking points, dude. Like
Well, it's dogma.
I
It's
don't
just
hear,
dogma.
but even a lot of the Democrats don't say this anymore. Like, I mean, I guess the far leftists do, but like they've kind of
Well,
retired
I
that
see a lot
line.
of Well, it's just kind of
It's already in
there's
the
just
zeitgeist. They don't
it's
need to
just yeah, it's just ingrained.
yeah, they don't need to say it anymore. It's already, the meme has done its job.
Or it's
Yeah,
like at the Super Bowl party when a well-meaning guy but very dorky said something like, "Why are we trying to deport this?" When it was like the Bad Bunny and they're doing all the Puerto
uh-huh,
Rican dancing, and
uh-huh.
I was like, "Well, you can go live in a neighborhood like that if you want." And
Yeah,
but the whole premise of him saying that was, "Isn't this awesome? Isn't this what?"
right.
Like basically without saying that.
Yeah, yeah. And that's somebody who like the talking points have worked on. Like mission successful, we can retire that meme now. It's in the people's heads who we need it in to just be drones for that idea. And Hunter's one of them. So yeah, it makes sense.
Hear you talk about this idea of white culture. What fucking white culture are you talking about, man?
Oh
What
my
literally? What
God.
white?
Shakespeare, Dante, Mozart. We're in Philadelphia, the founding fathers.
Yeah.
That,
Like
that's
How
literally,
about the
really
Count of
like
Monte Cristo? Would you consider that part of our white culture?
sure.
Okay. Well, it was written by a black man in France in
Yes,
the 1700s.
in a milieu
So,
of European civilization.
yeah.
so what?
Because
So what?
you're
It's
picking
not white
out
or
you're picking
black,
out one
Nick.
example. It
I'm
really
not
is.
just picking out one
It
example,
really is.
Nick.
That's
No,
listen.
Nick, I'm not. I really am not.
no, he really is just picking out one example. Like Dumas was half black, I want to say. He wasn't full black. And yeah, I mean, he grew up in European culture. That actually proves Nick's point. Where was
Yeah, he wasn't writing this in Mogadishu.
exactly, like where, that's what I was going to say. Like, where is the Alexander Dumas in Congo? Oh, that it doesn't exist. He had to live among Europeans to become that. So yeah.
Hey guys, I think we're reaching what's called a rock in a hard place. Let's talk about Israel.
Well, let me
There's
respond to this because
there's
you're telling me I'm always
millions of
blaming the
other
other.
books
No,
that
Nick,
could
for
be
real,
used
for
as a
real.
better
Here's the thing.
example. That's just one
Wait,
book.
wait. What'd you say?
I
Sorry.
was just saying there's so many other books you could use as an example. That's one book out of like if you look at the classics, yeah, it's up there, but like you
Ye-
can come up with a much, much, much bigger list.
It's like when people try to put like Don Quixote on like the level of like the Iliad and stuff. It's like, yeah, I mean that was a great book out of a Mexican writer. It's like, but it's not up there with like the canon of Western civilization. They do this with every. They purposefully try to elevate books like that so they can use them in these examples. And that's also why they've been trying to push. Maybe this is like an FBA thing, but they've been trying to push that Shakespeare was black actually, and that whole thing. So I mean, they do really try to do that.
Is that the way that you talk and throw out these historical facts, which, by the way, aren't fucking facts.
Oh,
Okay?
which ones aren't
No,
facts?
well,
Oh, you're really pressing the liberal when they start throwing out fucking in front of everything. You know what
Oh
I
yeah,
mean?
now they're
They
trying to, the gloves are
the
off.
gloves are off, the facade of the nice guy is off. And like all liberals can really do, like to be menacing, is swear because they're not, and again, maybe trite at this point, but liberals aren't like notoriously strong people. And even if they are, like they don't like to express strength because they've learned that like the masculine is bad. So the only thing they have left is like swearing. So they go like, fuck you, you douche nugget. You know what I
Chuckle
mean?
fuck.
Yeah, yeah. Look at this little chuckle fuck over here. And that's what
It's
Biden's
so
doing.
Reddit.
It's they don't like I wonder sometimes if they know the extent to which we're like laughing at them. Like the whole right wing is
Well,
like
they don't because it's like they're stuck in this early
they,
2000s where it's
they are
transgressive to be like,
to say
yeah, I said a bad word. It's like no one cares anymore. Like there's no such thing as premium cable where it's like where it's
yeah,
special. It's
yeah,
like music doesn't care. Nobody actually listens to FM radio anymore.
exactly.
So like
There's no
there
like pretense of it being like a bad nothing is a bad
well, and
word because
like
there's
I
no
mean, millennial and Gen X parents swear in front of their kids.
uh-huh,
You don't really have that etiquette anymore.
right.
Like I was like I've noticed this a bunch where I'll be at someone's house around their 3 year old and I'll accidentally say something, and I
Uh-huh.
always immediately go, "Oh, I'm sorry," and they're like, "Ah, no, he hears worse all
Yeah.
the time." I'm
Yeah,
like,
I know.
ooh,
It's like, yeah, and I think that's the move that the thing you're doing is the right thing to do. Catch yourself and be like, oh, my bad. Like that's the way to do it.
well,
And
that's
then
because that's like what I grew up with, and it was
yeah,
like I remember like parents, friends, if they like being like, "Oh, sorry," or "sorry," like it's not like I didn't hear my parents say anything,
yeah,
or like family members or adults swear when I was younger, but it was just like it was more like people would catch themselves.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, and that's totally well, it's gone for the most part. And yeah, yeah, so Biden's fallen into these aren't fucking facts, man. Like, okay. Okay, Redditor.
The way that you talk and throw out these historical facts, which, by the way, aren't fucking facts.
Oh, which
Okay?
ones aren't
No,
facts?
well, as it relates to the civil rights movement in 1968, and the reason why we're out in the problem that we're in is because the Civil Rights Act passed in 1964. Dr. Martin Luther King was killed and shot by a white racist, white supremacist in 1968 on a balcony of a
Okay.
motel. That's the root of our
And
trouble, because an entire people that have been disenfranchised and enslaved for over 400 years.
We're sick of hearing about that, though. It's
You may be
2026.
sick of hearing about it, but you know what? They aren't. And I'll tell you what, Nick.
yeah, we know.
Of course not. They love it.
He says they're not tired of talking about it. Yeah, we know. We know they're not tired of talking about it. And it's also this thing where he says that's the root of all of our problems. Like that, to your point, that is dogma that they really view like the birth of this country as like 1619 maybe, or it's when like the Civil Rights Act was passed. Like they view that as like
I think
original
it's Civil
sin.
Rights Act. It's like
Yeah,
that's kind of like the the birth of the country to them
to
because
them,
it
yeah.
and again and they hang on to all this stuff like yeah, it's like even with 9/11 it was like they switched probably within a decade of being like get over it, get over it, get over it. They
Yeah.
you need we deserved it, blah blah blah. But then it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
when it's anything with FBAs, it's like you can go back to Emmett Till, you go back to the 1800s.
uh-huh,
It's all just as relevant today as it
right.
was 100 years ago, and it's just it really is like a religion to them where they'll deny reality and be like they're just poor humble sharecroppers who just need a handout. It's like how much money is spent on voter outrage?
I
So
know.
like to say they're disenfranchised, it's like
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
billions or probably hundreds of millions spent on voter outreach, DEI hiring. Like
right.
it just go down the list. I
Yeah.
can't think of them. Like you almost
The
it's
s-
well past privileged.
the schooling, the most heavily funded school districts are the blackest school districts. They're the ones getting $25,000 a student. It's everything like that. That is the
I do.
opposite.
I laugh every time I'm driving through the hood because like you saw the meme that was like white school where the average SAT score is, and I'm from an ACT state,
Okay.
so
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if this is a good. I don't know. I might be repeating it wrong. But like average score is 1,300. Is that a good score?
For the average, yeah, that's a good average score. Like for
Okay,
your
so they were
school to
like,
have, yeah.
yeah, they were like, school with an average SAT score is 1300. Cedar Creek High School. School where the average high school where the average reading level isn't even middle school. Super duper dreamer academies
Yeah,
of
exactly.
excellence.
No, the LeBron James I Promise school.
But there's so many. It's
There's
like there's a
so many of those, dude.
there's a school here called like Milwaukee School of Science, and
Uh-huh.
it's like the score, and it's a really bad school. And
Yeah.
there's all these other schools where it's like the dreamer, the ultimate dreamer, or no,
Yeah.
not ultimate, but like
Yeah, no,
the
but
scholarly
but
dreamer
it's
academy.
basically something like that, like the scholarly, excelling, wonderful school, you know.
It's so like patronizing.
It is. Yeah. My favorite is the LeBron school though, because when you hear I promise, it's like, and they did this whole gay like ceremony around it where they made a promise to each child, and it's like, dude, the kids there are not even at like a fourth grade reading level. It's bleak there. And it's LeBron. It's not a money issue. LeBron is just pumping money into this thing. It's so funny, dude.
It's America.
Okay, but Nick, you can say stuff like that, okay, without having to say it like that. And we look,
That's not how it started, though.
This is a legitimate argument.
Exactly.
Nick.
Guys, Nick, Hunter, what do you guys make of the concept of community collapse? Have you guys heard of this?
No.
So it's got nothing to do with race, got nothing to do with money, but this is kind of a crazy stat. So in 2019, before COVID, 76% of Americans said they were part of an in-person community that gave them some kind of value. After COVID, and this year, it was 19%. So I think that politics and race aside, one of the biggest issues is the collapse of social bonds, third spaces, communities, in-person engagement, which comes with loneliness, more time online, and more division. I understand. I feel like you guys aren't going to agree. I want to talk about what you
That's
guys think can be
honestly
done
just
on
a
an
white
individual.
issue.
Exactly. Like that's a
That's
lot of
I
that.
would say that's a white issue more than anything.
Well, a lot of that you can't untangle from race. The death of third spaces? That's a crime argument. That's an anti-crime argument, really, um, because they won't enforce the crime. So people of any status have to be allowed in every place. And I'm not taking my kid to where they're smoking blunts at the park. Like the third spaces thing is racial and freedom of association related. So a lot of this is relates to what Nick is saying. These are like arguments from Robert Putnam's book, Bowling Alone. That's basically what this guy's talking about. The death of the third space. That's racial. Um, yeah.
Community level to stop people from hating each other and to create more belonging and engagement.
Well, number one, I think this. Okay, for real.
Podcasting.
No, not podcasting. This discussion. For me to be able to sit down with someone who I so vehemently disagree with and find some kind of common ground.
But I mean,
look,
guy at home who's watching this on his phone, just thinking, I wish I could go outside. I don't know anyone.
Okay, well, here's what I'm talking about. It's all about connection. It is all about actually connecting with people. And I'm not talking about digitally connecting with people anonymously online. I'm talking about actually going out and connecting with people. And I don't have an answer to that. I don't any of us. We are in an look, man, I just think that you are targeting the wrong problem.
We got a look man already. We already got a look man 20 minutes in. He's just like his dad. And I don't even totally disagree. I mean, these are just platitudes, but yeah, get outside and meet people. You're not going to get much of a fight from me on that one.
Problem, Nick. I think that our biggest problem right now doesn't have to do with this cultural divide or racial divide or religious divide or the idea that America is becoming less white or culturally relevant anymore. I think our biggest problem is literally an oligarchy that is inflaming every single division that we have. And by the way, and they're out for you, man, just as much as anybody else.
Why not agree?
So what do you think about that? I just think that's just liberal. That's
It's a
just liberal
cop-out.
slop. Liberal slop. Like the problem is that the rich want to keep you divided, and you're doing their bidding every time you notice that black people make your neighborhood unlivable. Like that's what he's saying. Like you're doing every time you're mad about black crime, blame the billionaires, basically. I mean, I don't even see how you could make a roundabout argument for that. It's their fault. Like it's their fault who's committing the people who are committing the crime, they're at fault for committing the crime. It's just that simple. It's so funny. It's like he's blaming the oligarchs for the fact that people's cars are getting stolen.
Every single division that we have. And by the way, and they're out for you, man. Just as much as anybody else.
Why not agree?
So those platforms that we talk about that you're not allowed to be on because Elon's out on the platform. Elon doesn't give a shit about anything other than one thing. Money.
Real quick.
Money. It's his money.
I don't necessarily even agree with that.
Okay, well, you may not agree with that because you don't want to piss off Elon Musk.
Elon doesn't even like me, but I just disagree.
You're talking about the look.
That's not really even true either. Elon, I think he's losing money so far from buying Twitter. See, they're so materialist. They have to bring everything back to like this Marxist worldview. Everything has to come back to like the billionaires and the business owners, and Elon only
Well, because
cares about money.
it's easier target.
Yeah,
It's such an easier target.
and it just requires less brain power. Like for liberals, like that's a fun, and to be fair, may not be popular, but you do see some of this on the right wing with the Jewish stuff, if I'm being totally honest, where it's just kind of this lazy, like uh tying everything to Jews. I'm trying to think of like an example, but you know what I mean. It's just less pronounced on the right. Like the people, there's a smaller amount of people blaming Jews for everything in their life than there is of leftists blaming money for every problem in their life. So I think that that's where they're headed. But it's boring. It's like everything comes back to like, well, they just care about money. It's like, well, I mean, money gets you influence, so I don't blame them.
Exactly.
Like, okay.
Right? Like these billionaires, right? Like the goal of corporate capture of these industries is community collapse. They are trying to engineer things to make it antisocial. They want to eliminate every single small business. They want to make everyone a single person shopper, no carpooling, like to be a lonely consumer who only buys things for themselves online and doesn't talk to anyone in real life. And that's what they want in real life. Like all this data.
I just don't buy that. I see what he's saying.
No.
I feel like that's a side effect. I don't think that when they were inventing Instagram, they were saying, we are going to make, in Hunter's example, we're going to make teenage girls sad. Let's do it. I think that's a byproduct. I think they want to maximize
it's the
user time on the
unforeseen
phone.
consequences
Yeah,
of it all.
exactly. It's like I don't buy this whole conspiratorial thing that like he used the example of like HOV lanes. Like who's stopping me from using the HOV lane? They actually promote
Trying to
those.
not get people to not carpool. What?
Like who's stopping me from carpooling? Like what? There's that's like conspiratorial thinking that there's just no basis for it. Like yeah, these things are side effects of a technological society. I agree, but it's not this nefarious thing. That's kind of what Hunter is saying, that it's this nefarious rich guys were in a boardroom rubbing their hands together and decided to make us mad about blacks or something. Like it's not that deep actually.
Censorship, like everything they're doing is in a way trying to break up in-person engagement. And I feel like for you guys, it might be hard to answer because both of you guys are what they call like controversial public figures. Like there's places that you, like in 2018, if you were to go to a dive bar in, let's say, Poplar Bluff, Missouri, you would have been in danger. You know what I mean? At that time, for you were in danger physically in a left-wing city. It's just the truth. So I feel like you guys have been deprived of the ability to have normal lives. You especially, but I mean you in general. But I feel like your controversies came a little bit later in life. For you, I feel like you haven't even been able to grow up as a normal person. Is that accurate to say?
That's true. Well, and in terms of building community back and everything like that, the data says that really the loss of society is the fact that we don't encounter people anymore. For example, on your way to work or in ways that are unexpected. People wake up in their house, which is separate from everybody else. They get in their car by themselves, drive to work by themselves, and then they meet with their colleagues and everything, but then they go right home, have a beer, watch Netflix until they go to bed. Next day starts all over again. And so I think it has a lot to do with maybe how we structure the cities. I think honestly, a big part of it, there's like this abundance mindset with liberals. Liberals want to have prosperity and everything like that. How can you have that when the cities are not safe? I think that one of the ways, for example, if you want to have those encounters that are unplanned or spontaneous, they're going to happen maybe on the subway, on the bus, on your way to work. People don't want to ride the subway anymore. People don't want to ride.
It really does. I mean, anytime you're talking about the cities, and the liberals will just never like engage with this, but anytime you're talking about the decline of the cities, you cannot not talk about crime. If you're talking about that, it's impossible. And they want to talk about bike lanes and highways and HOV lanes and everything except the issue. Dude, the issue is crime. Like there are peripheral ancillary factors, obviously, like I get that, but like really the root of it is like a race issue, honestly. If you're you can get side things happening like COVID, like you talk about like nightlife wasn't the same after COVID. I think that's true, but I think the big part of the pie, the meat of it
It's crime.
is a racial and crime issue primarily. But they have no ability to engage with that. And I'm good on Nick for bringing it back to that because they would just not talk about that if like Nick weren't there.
The bus.
I just feel that if you look at the data, like right now, 2026, I think 2025 had the lowest homicide rate of any year in America for like the past 4 years. I feel like if you compare data from the 90s, like the cities, I get what you're saying, but the cities I have noticed are a lot safer. They're also, becoming more expensive as well.
You're absolutely right. What you're saying, Nick, is impossible to refute, right? Because everybody has an experience with violence or.
Okay. So I call BS on that stat. I hear liberals saying that all the time. I think it's from municipalities not
it's things not being prosecuted. That's all it is.
They're not prosecuting, and like I forget which city it is. I think it's either it's one of the bad ones, Little Rock, Baltimore, or some city like that. The unsolved murder rate is at like 60% in some of these black cities. So I don't see how that number holds any weight of, it's the lowest homicide year. Okay, well, when these cities are catching 80% of their criminals, then we can talk about that. But until then, I don't see that at all. Yeah, I think it's obvious that they're just not reporting and they're not prosecuting the crime.
Witnessing the crime,
Exactly.
or whether it's just in their local newspaper or not, is that I don't think that that is in any way limited to only urban environments. I take the top 10 poorest red states in the country, and their crime rates are 10 times what many urban centers are.
So
Oh
you'd be
my
comparing like West Virginia,
gosh.
coal country, disenfranchised to
Fake.
like an urban neighborhood,
Yeah, in terms of
basically.
per capita crime,
Oh my.
in terms of per capita murder, in terms of per capita
Oh
child
my
sexual abuse, yeah.
gosh.
I think the things that people really care about, things like
Fake,
that is their
fake,
own personal.
fake.
That's so because they always do that. The actually the most crime-ridden cities are red states. Okay, what city in those red
Show
states?
the
Like
map.
show the map. Like Arkansas is the perfect example. Little Rock. Okay, the red state, black city. Yeah, I mean the list goes on. Tennessee, Memphis, same thing. Even a state like Texas, like Houston and Dallas are the crime drivers. Um, yeah, so like obviously it's going to be black cities within red states. They do the same thing with like education scores too, where they're like most of the red states can't read, and then you look into it and it's like, oh, all the suburban schools are fine, but the five public high schools in the city, they're reading at like a kindergarten level. So it's the same thing.
Safety.
Yeah.
It is not limited to African American urban or Latino American urban environments. It's not. It exists. Carjackings do happen, but you know where they happen? They happen in Biloxi, Mississippi, just as much as they happen in Chicago.
I'm skeptical of that.
I mean, I just think the idea of like safety,
Well,
like safety
by
at
the
risk,
way,
crime is no. I feel like media has overblown the level of
everybody's
danger.
going to fact check both of us on this, and
Yeah.
but I agree with you. But my point about it all of it is, though, is that you can always point to a reason, Nick. There's never been a time in which there hasn't been crime in major urban areas where you pack a lot of people in. You're right, though, is that the difference between us feeling like each other are neighbors and that we can find some common ground is the fact, you can live in existence now by the time you're 56 years old and never really have to leave your house to make a living, you don't go to the community center anymore. And I don't know how to fix that. And I certainly
it all
don't know how to
connects
fix it
back
in
to
the age of
politics,
AI.
right? Because
There's some truth there about people being atomized today. That's fair. But a lot of that stems from things like white flight into the suburbs and having to drive into the city for work, not being able to take the subway sometimes. So even that, it does come back to what we're talking about, honestly.
community is like an essential human need, if not the most important thing. So when you are deprived of that, you're more likely to look for a radical solution and be like, everything's broken. We need to try something really out there. So you might embrace something more reactionary on left or right to be like, fuck this, we need something new. And so I'm not trying to draw this like male loneliness, like incel pipeline that the media tries to do all the time. But do you
No,
see a
but
connection there between?
he is doing that though. And he's saying that the reason people are upset about crime is because they're lonely. I would flip it the other way. And in many cases, they're lonely because of the crime, because there's no,
Well, yeah, because people aren't. I mean, the thing is like you have to go out to the burbs now to if you want to go out. Like if you go out downtown, there's a horrible vibe because everything is shittier.
yeah, yeah. And that's,
And then or people
yeah,
just simply don't want to go downtown. So then people be like, "Nah, I'm just chilling tonight,"
yeah,
and
yeah.
it becomes self-fulfilling.
Exactly. So it's still you can't detangle these two things, and they're trying to talk about everything other than crime, and he's tying it back to what they did earlier, where he's like, "Do you think that young men are just upset about crime because they're lonely?" It's like you're kind of missing the point here.
Like people being lonely and having less friends and subcultural choice taking over community value systems or community engagement and people just like driving to the extreme?
100%. I think social dislocation is probably the number one problem of our times because you look at the young people and you're right, it is one of those essential human needs is to connect and have that sense of familiarity, to be seen, to see and to be seen. And that's something young people don't have. And I think, by the way, you look at the way young people socialize and even the mentality, I think a lot of young people have this absolute drive to go to college. Why? It's an extension of high school. And what do high school and college have in common?
That's
It's a
true.
community. You're in the quad. You can see and be seen. There's sort of like a status, reputation. You're constantly involved with other people. And I think everybody, young people, look at when they graduate from college like falling off a cliff and now life is over. Because now you just have your job, the gym, and going back home, and that's it. And this is why a lot of young people then want to move to the big cities. Got to go to New York, got to go to Chicago.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because
He's making a really good one.
yeah, I was thinking about like what the difference would have been in a previous era, like in the 70s and 80s when people started working after high school primarily. And I mean the difference was that you had community back then. That
Well,
to
and
where
also I think the big difference is people were less neurotic and crazy back then,
yeah,
where you could
yeah,
go out and drink with your coworkers,
right.
and
And maybe even
you know,
meet your future wife,
yeah, there
which
wasn't
sounds
all this.
which sounds ridiculous now, meeting your wife at a at a work happy hour. Like that sounds like a sexual assault case. Wait, sounds like I'm about to be put on TikTok and told to never
Yeah,
date
it's
anyone.
just like things were also way, and that's the other thing about woke, and this kind of goes to feminism. That's the other thing that's like very much. I mean, and that, they haven't. I don't know if they eventually get into this, but the problem is you can't bring up the problems with feminism without being called an incel,
Exactly. Exactly. You
and
can't. Yeah. Yeah.
that's like they've kind of been sticking to race, so I don't know if they get into the
Yeah.
feminism aspect, but that's done just as much damage.
Yeah. You can't talk about the urban problem without talking about race, and I don't think you can talk about really like
Social
the
dynamics.
social dynamics without talking about the women turning into like different creatures in the last 30 years. Like they're different now. And I don't expect Hunter Biden to understand that, but it's a different world out there, man. And yeah, yeah, that's very true. Yeah, you can't ignore that either. That's why we talk about it so much on the show. So yeah.
or LA where it's happening, and they want to get a condo or an apartment downtown because they want to go to the bar scene, extend college a little bit longer, and I think that's just not really a sustainable way to have a society. There has to be a way for people to still have that sense of community outside of, let's say, college and high school, even into their adulthood, and then into their old age. So yeah, I mean that's one of the biggest problems going on, and I agree. I think it drives, even to your point about the whites only community in Arkansas. I think it is driving these, let's call it ghettoization or insulation of people going into these artificial values-based communities.
Yeah.
Because where are you going to find people? Go online, start spouting about politics, or even not just for incels and right wingers, but even on the left. Someone like Tyler Robinson, he's on Discord. He's on Discord with all of the Overwatch players and all the LGBTQ or whatever. And I think that, there's a tendency there where everybody kind of amplifies some of the resentment or feelings there. So I agree, that's a huge driver.
So for you, like back in high school when you were like first kind of starting to use the internet and all that, did you build most of your community in person outside Chicago, or was it mostly online?
When I was in high school or college?
High school.
High school, I had real friends in Model UN. That was my favorite thing. So that was.
But you were still creating like some kind of content at that time.
Not in high school, no.
Okay, so you went to BU.
Yes.
Were most of your friends like classmates there? Like when did you start to kind of build your online persona and community around your content?
We're getting into the pathologizing here. They're going to pathologize and go, and then you were outspoken, and then your friends abandoned you, and now you agree with Nazism. Like I feel like
Yep.
that's where this is headed. They always do. They just cannot deal with his ideas on their own. There has to be some context, some pathologizing, some
Well, it's like we said earlier,
psychologizing.
it's the Bill Maher Zinger funny face.
Yeah, yeah. Like, look at this guy. Yeah, they're not doing it as explicitly here, but that's kind of the undertone. Is like, let's
Oh yeah.
explain, let's explain how somebody could come to believe this. It's like, I don't think the beliefs are that crazy for the most part. I think it's real life, you know?
Yeah.
It wasn't until I left college. So to that point, I had friends in college. And then when I left college and started my show independently, then it was all people online. And everybody I knew was people from my community for the most part.
But your cancellation from mainstream platforms was effectively the same thing as like a community collapse for your personal life, right?
Yeah, well,
There
I
you
wouldn't
go.
even say it was just a cancellation, but even more just returning home from college.
What do you think would have happened to you, like career-wise and personal life-wise, if you never would have been mainstreamed? I mean, I guess removed from major social media platforms.
Oh, it'd be a lot easier to make friends, let's say, because being banned on Instagram, you might as well be dead. In Generation Z, that's how everybody sees each other, meets each other, talks to each other. So I think I probably have a wider, livelier circle.
Do you feel like you had less friends after that?
No, I'd say it's about the same.
No, but I mean, you said that like you feel like it would have been easier to make friends.
It would have been easy to make more friends, yeah, sure.
So aside from your career, how was your like personal and social life affected in those following years?
Well, it's brutal, I mean, because everybody that I knew from high school is on Instagram, on Facebook, and I'm just not on there. It's almost like you're removed from the earth. For Generation Z, I understand for older people, for different generation, people still meet up or stay in touch in other ways. But if you're not online as a young person, you might as well be dead.
Do you think you would have said like some of the more extreme things that you did say if
There
you,
we go.
I guess, were allowed to remain on the mainstream internet?
Absolutely, yeah.
Looking back, and I'm not trying to get you to like take something back necessarily. What's like one thing that you said when you were younger where you're like, fuck, wish I could take that back?
I don't know if I regret what I've said. It's just how you say it.
Yeah, like can you think of an example of?
I like that walking that middle ground there because like he's being very vulnerable here and like he could just try to just denied it and moved on and been like, nope, had no effect on me. Nope. Like when you interview Nick, you'll notice he does get very vulnerable and he will just tell the truth about, how things impacted his life. But then they try
Yeah.
he gives them an inch and they try to take a mile. Now this Andrew guy is trying to ask him like, well, what would you take back from when you were an immature little brat? Basically, it's like,
Yep.
I like that Nick isn't going to budge there. He's like, I wouldn't really take anything back, which is the right response. But yeah, I mean, you give them an inch. Like, look at Nick's, his face is like, he's making the sour face. Like, I don't like this line of question. Like, not that he's uncomfortable by it, but by like, don't try to get me in here to like denounce things I've said. I'm not doing that. He has like kind of an annoyed face on. It's funny.
Like when you listen back to something, you're like, geez, I wish.
Yeah. So I did this rally in 2023 called Fuentes Rally 2. And the one comment I said, we're talking about a spiritual battle between Christians and everybody else. And I said, we're in a holy war. I said, we're going to make them die in a holy war. And the second I said that, I was like, didn't mean to say that. It's an extemporaneous speech. So you don't rehearse it. You just say things. And I was like, didn't mean that. Shouldn't have said that. So it's always
fair.
the how. It's always in the delivery that I...
Nick, I can think of about 4 things that I really wish you would take back right now. The cookies in the oven.
Well, it's a joke.
But it's not, Nick. My wife is Jewish. My son is Jewish. No, Nick. I promise you.
Oh my!
Don't get mad.
I didn't know that was in here. We have Piers Morgan moment number 2. Me wife's
Think of about
mom
4
died
things
in
that I
a
really wish
Hollywood.
you would take back right now. The cookies in the oven.
Well, it's a joke.
But it's not, Nick. My wife is Jewish. My son is Jewish. No, Nick. I promise you. Don't get mad.
I'm not mad.
Okay,
It's just...
I know. But you got to understand how incredibly, whether it's a joke or not, it's a lived experience passed down from generation to generation. Whether or not, and by the way, not just from the Holocaust, not just from 1939 on, 2,000 years of history. Okay, forget about Israeli politics and Netanyahu, because I think we agree about Bibi Netanyahu. I'm positive we do, and I've listened to you talk about it. But you got to understand. Look at me, man.
I see.
It hurts. It hurts.
Nick,
I promise you it does.
I hate when liberals do this thing, man. I hate that. This like come to Jesus
Let me
meeting.
get serious.
Yeah, where they're like, those things that you say, they really hurt people. I've had people do this to me before and try to like really like, man, I'm talking to you like person to person here.
But they never,
that's offensive.
it's like, but if you can't bring up things that they say that quote unquote hurt other people.
Yeah, no,
Like
it's a
Hunter's
one-way
probably
street.
said plenty of nasty things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It only goes one way. Of course it does. It's so gay. Oh, no, man, really? Okay.
Compare my wife's family to cookies going to an oven. It hurts, and you've got to understand that. And by the way, I'm looking at you, and I believe that you do know that.
See, that's where you lose me. That's where you lose me.
Okay, Nick. Okay, I'm telling you.
Well, listen, are we here to talk, or are you here to lecture me and preach?
Okay, no,
to
you're
me?
right. Let me listen.
Okay,
listen, you're right.
This is the thing, because
hey, pretty good way to take the microphone back. That's very true. That's what he said to Candace also in the Candace interview when he was like, "Look, I'm not going to let you sit here and." I forgot what he said, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely a moment where it's like, okay, I've been cordial. I'm not liking this dynamic here, and you got to hit the reset button.
I'm telling you.
Well, listen, are we here to talk, or are you here to lecture me and preach?
Okay, no,
to
you're
me?
right. Let me listen.
Okay,
listen, right.
So this is the thing.
Shut your white ass up and listen, Hunter. A Mexican is speaking. The Mexican is speaking to the Irishman.
Because, and I think this is a disconnect. I think that the left, and even people on the right, they're losing the young people. Why do people love me? Not in spite of, but because of the outrageous things that I say. Not in spite of, but because I say offensive things. Because I, let's say, drop the N-word on a video or something. It's because people are sick of the preachiness, the lecturing. They really are.
But Nick, I disagree. I think that you're appealing to the lowest common denominator of thought. If you're hating on the people that they think are the reason for their suffering, then you must be on their side. I don't think that you believe that about the Holocaust. I think you think the Holocaust did happen. But forget about whether or not you think that it is used politically in a way that is obtuse and wrong. But I think that you do believe that. And I think that you have to. Like, what's your cultural heritage?
I'm Italian, Mexican.
I'd be curious what he would say is wrong about. I mean, Hunter says it right there. I'm not talking about the ways the Holocaust is used in obtuse and wrong ways. What would those ways be? Because that sounds very anti-Semitic. To even suggest that event is used for anything nefarious is like that's an anti-Semitic dog whistle. I'm curious what he thinks about that. But he also does that thing where he tries to make it seem like Nick's following is like low class racist, basically, where he's like, I think you're appealing to your dumb audience who wants to hear you say those things. It's like this is gonna sound like an ad for the Groypers, but like this is just reality. I've gone to multiple Nick events and I've met probably thousands of people who follow his movement. And these aren't like online people. These are like people in the everyday world. These are not stupid low-class racists. Like a lot of them have good jobs. A lot of them are very motivated by what Nick has told them about getting a foot in the door in politics, reading, becoming their best version of themselves. Like that is his average follower. It's not a swastika tatted up guy from Methville. And I think that they have to kind of believe that because it's hard for them to believe that his followers are like well-adjusted, very intelligent people. So like if you ask his followers why they believe what they believe about Israel or race, they're not just going to be like, I just don't like them. Like there's going to be a catalog that they've read. There's going to be info they have. Like So
Yeah.
that's just him not knowing Nick's base, but they do that a lot. They try to tie them to the lowest common denominator statement, which is just not true.
Irish.
Mexican. When did they come in Italian? When did the Mexicans come? When did the Irish come?
Mexicans came turn of the last century.
Yeah.
Italians came in the 1860s.
Yeah.
Irish came in the early 1900s.
Okay, so maybe you wouldn't care about something that is like grossly offensive just on the face of it, and think that, oh, why can't people just believe that that's funny? But you got to understand, it's from the perspective of somebody that has that trauma, and I think that there is such a thing as generational trauma, and those stories are passed down generation to generation. When you say something like that, it's just, they completely shut off. They can't hear another thing that you're saying about this cultural disconnect, about losing communities, about the feeling of being left out or left behind in a world in which there no longer is this sense of community. All the other things that you say, everybody else is left, and what you do pick up. You pick up the ones that hear the dog whistle. You pick up the ones that say, yeah, that's the way that I feel, because it's radical.
I love this picture. It's supposed to be very ominous. It's funny.
It's like he's willing to say the thing that nobody else will say in this environment. And then you get, an enormous amount of niche, but love from that. And I just don't believe that you believe that. I don't believe that you think that it was appropriate for you to say something like that. I don't think you believe that it's appropriate to say women shouldn't vote.
Let's give Nick a second to respond to the first thing.
I know I talk constantly. That's how I do.
We could probably call part 1 there if you're cool. If you want to shoot for tomorrow, if you're down.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good place
cool.
to leave off.
Yeah, we got through a little bit more of it than I thought we would. So 45 minutes took about 2 hours. So yeah, we can probably do the rest of it in just one part, not have to go to 3. But yeah, I mean, at the end there, he did the same thing where he was like, I don't like, again, it's the pathologizing. It's I don't think you really believe what you're saying. It's like, no, I think Nick definitely believes what he's saying. I think
He's just having fun with it too.
Yeah, it's not a facade. It's not like he's not playing the role of Nick Fuentes. Like, this is what Nick Fuentes believes, but they can never just deal with his beliefs on their face. It always has to be this, who hurt you and why are you lying about your beliefs? So
exactly.
Par for the course. But yeah, we'll shoot for doing the next one tomorrow. I hope everybody enjoyed this. We will definitely aim to get all of it in one episode or in a single episode tomorrow. So come back if you want to see part 2. Follow SW on Twitter at SnowMed34, SNOWMED 34. And on Twitter, I'm Jordan B Videos, JORDANBVIDE 0S. Hope you enjoyed, and SW, I will talk to you later, man.
Sounds good. Take care.
All right, later.